Hey, tea sippers. Hey, tea sippers. Hey, Marie. Hey, Jesse. Hey, Mrs. Tom. Hey, Be Rich. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Belinda. I'm sorry I missed y'all. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am drained. I don't. Oof. Pray for me. That's all I can say is pray for me. Oh, it's just so much going on. It's just, oh my God. Yeah, please pray for me. I really don't be. Never mind. I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days. And some. Whatever the words are. Lord, I am just so tired. I'm just so tired and trying to figure out. I don't think there's nothing I can do about winning this appeal for this demonetization because it's staged. And that's the messed up part about it. They have staged this. They don't want you talking about the truth. And they dang sure don't want you listening to or playing. I don't own one. What you mean you don't own one? Them Legos, the AI stuff, where they be planting the truth. They don't want you to know that. And then Room Shaker, shout out to Room Shaker. She sent me something about, oh my God, it's just so much, y'all. It's different when you getting paid. I ain't gonna even lie. I ain't gonna even fake the funk. Baby. It just be too much going on. This time last year, all of this wasn't going on. All of this deceit, all of this child trafficking. Hey, Room Shaker, I'm going in on yours today, so thank you so very much. Yeah, okay. And I'm like, dang. And then Epstein, they figuring out that Epstein done got face surgery and shit, and is he trying to mock Trump and Melania, and they talking about that girl Amanda talking with the committee. Are they all in cahoots together? It's like, what is going on? Now, mind you, help me get out that funk, because T-Sippers, I know you will. Hit me on the back end and be like, Auntie Fee, we got you. Yeah, I know. But this crazy this what unauthentic content. Last year, it was reused content. So every year, it's like they come up with this mass demonetizing of content creators, and they come up with some made up reason. Why promote AI and then turn around and demonetize because of AI? It's just crazy to me. You with a smile. So yeah, y'all got to keep me motivated. Yeah, I ain't gonna even lie. There's too much going on. Too much going on in my world. Found out my cousin was cremated, and it's like, what? When we start doing that? What are we doing? Times has just changed so much. I just, y'all. Before I get started, can I get a song? Can I get a little Lord help me to hold out? Lord help me to hold out, something. But one thing is for sure. I don't care, how I feel, what I got going on. I am not gonna not put that truth out for you. I'm just not. That's just not my ministry. That's just not my purpose. I don't even know how I fell up in here, but I'm here now. And, you'll never be able to say Auntie Fee didn't spread the truth or didn't prepare us or didn't warn us. That's just not going to ever be the case. I just can't do it. Even if I don't make a dime off of it, I still can't do it. I just still can't. My heart will not allow me to not tell y'all the truth with what's going on. Hey, Aunt Esther. Even when I want to say, man, I ain't finna do that. God say, yeah, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to get up and you're going to trust in the Lord and lean out to your understanding and remind yourself, I have always made a way out of no way for you. I have always made a way. And I have to say, yes, Lord. You're right. So don't start not trusting me now when you've been trusting me all along. So listen. So this right here came out today. Well, I saw it today. No, I've been talking about Pistol Pete. And not Pistol Pete, Auntie Fee. Laquita. What's his name? Palm Beach Pete. Palm Beach Pete. PPP, that sounds too much like PPP. Like you spitting on that thing or something. Kickstarting that thing. Yeah. So we had, what's her name? Melania coming trying to get in front of her scandal. Please don't believe what's about to come out and come before you about me. Please continue to believe I'm a good little girl that just got caught up with a bad old man in a diaper. Nah, boo-boo. Because I've been telling my T-Sippers that old boy right here had you before Trump. He sold you to Trump. That's that big old $24,000 check. That big check. Yeah. He had you before, a couple of years before Trump. He just let you taste it on Lolita Express. See, he wanted to sample it. He couldn't shake it. Yeah. So nah, boo boo. So then he surfaced. He was supposed to have been locked up and took his own life. How he done got a facelift? So now you got old Massey. See, Y'all can thank these folks don't be in your comments late at night, or don't be in your lives, cause you a small channel if you want to. Woo! So now Massey, he is Palm Beach Pete, have he been talking to the committee too? The oversight committee samples. Me, they been sampling. They been sampling on TV. Baby, them samples got... No, I'm not going to say that got me demonetized, because once I did my research, a lot. This is, they say, the biggest mass demonetization. Yeah, but everybody talking about Trump on them AIs. See, it's those little AIs that got us, I think. I believe it's them little AIs. Or AI is too real that they don't know who real or not. You understand? But Epstein files confirm Palm Beach Pete is really Jeffrey Epstein. He talked about getting facelifts and stuff. So he must have got his face done before he was taken out. You understand? Y'all see what's going on the cool? Y'all see how they playing it on the cool? Y'all see that? Y'all see that? I just want y'all to see that before I go over there. So that's like Auntie Fee. You got too much going on. You got to get up, out, get up. All that late night stuff, just and trying to figure out how can I fix it. It's like, they don't want you to fix it. But anyway, Costco. What's that Costco meat? What? Okay, so let's go on in. Since Room Shaker here, I don't want to hold her up just in case, because she is the one who sent to me about this whole damn online course to great folk. Y'all hit the like button. Don't make me fuss. Don't make me fuss. And y'all, one more before I go in, because y'all know I'm big on my detox, right? Y'all know I'm big on promoting everybody to consistently detox, because they trying to take us out. So I ran across one today, and I think I seen it before, but I didn't pay any mind, because if I can tell on myself, Room Shaker, can I tell on myself? Me, can I tell on myself? Krista, can I? Listen, so one of them, it talked about how you can tell if you have parasites. Look in your eyes. From the bottom, you can see if you have, dang, why is it saying turn on? Parasites in your lower part, in your intestines, by opening up your eyes and seeing if you have the thick worm, like squiggles in your lower, in your intestinal area. And if you look up and raise your eyelid up, and if you have a thick, little swigglies, then you probably have them up in your brain area. So when I saw it some time ago, Auntie Fee, I'm gonna check, I'm gonna see, and I'm gonna try to see if what they recommending work. So I went in the restroom, and I pulled my lower eyelid down, and I saw a thick squiggle. I said, oh shit. But I don't know at that time if I thought it was for real. Last night was the first time my husband listened to your program, and he said you're speaking facts and things about things going on. Thank you, Marie, and tell your husband thank you. Shout out to him. I just want us to know the truth. We've just been lied to for so long, and and I thank God for the ear that He has blessed me with, in the eye. That's going a little bad, but I'm working on it. The eyes that He has anointed me with for me to be able to see things maybe ahead of time or hear things that we need to hear to understand what's going on. So I give all the honor and praise to God for things that I'm able to hear that I know that is key for you to hear. And if it don't affect us right now, at least we can do is spread the word. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I will want to go get some. So listen, let me tell you. So I did. I went and I looked at my eye, and it's been about 2 months ago. And Lord in heaven, I saw it. I did. I sent it to Room Shaker. So let me see. And so today when I was sending it around, with a few people I sent it to, here it is. I looked in my eye to see if that squiggle was still there. And I looked, I pulled my eyelid down. I said, it's gone. Because Lord in heaven knows I've been working on getting the parasites out. I've never paid attention to them before, the dewormer, but now I know what's going on. I got my pumpkin seeds here. I got my olive oregano. I got the drops, the putting. I have been making sure I've been working on that detox of the parasites. And baby looked in my eye. Let me show you what I'm talking about right here. And my squiggles were gone. Thank you, Lord.
Look at the white part of your eyes, yeah? So the lower part and the upper part you need to see. When you look at the lower part and you see blood vessels like shown in this picture, then you have parasite.
Y'all see that?
In the gut area,
in the gut area.
If you have the web-like structure, the blood vessels are visible like in the picture. In the upper part of the white area of your eyes, then there is high probability that you have parasite infestation in the brain area.
Oh, baby.
So these are the signs, and if you see these signs, then you need to go for a deep dive parasite detox, parasite cleansing, and you will see many diseases vanishing from your body. So save this video, share it with your friends and relatives as well. Very effective way to identify whether you have parasite infestation or not. Thank you.
Infestation.
Whether you have parasite infestation.
I don't know if I didn't like the way she said infestation. But if we gonna be real, if we ain't been detoxing, and depending on how old you are, that's about how much, So I don't know if I like hearing infestation. But baby, I can at least say I had them.
So if you look at the white part of your eyes, yeah. So the lower part.
So take note, y'all.
You need to see. When you look at the lower part and you see blood vessels like shown in this picture, then you.
Mine didn't look like that, but I did have maybe one like this. The fuck is wrong with your brain? What you mean? God's a lie? What do you think? Alzheimer's and dementia. What do you think that is? You got worms in your parasites in your brain. Google, can you Google, God's a lie. Google if you can have parasites in your brain. Do we need to go there before we go anywhere else? Yeah. You can't just say is dementia, cause the meat people, not the meat people, Auntie Fee, stop. Don't call them. The medical people don't want you to know the truth. And that's the fake Jews. That sounds creepy as fuck. It do, but that's why we sick. That's why they trying to take us out. Cause either it's nasty or it sounds creepy. We be like, oh, okay, hold on. I'm gonna show you. Can you have parasites in the brain? Because I dang sure didn't want to think that you could have them in your eyes. In my eyes, the first time in my life I've ever had, I have not been 20/20. And my sister said, girl, you late. You the only one in the family that don't wear glasses. Okay, y'all ready for this? I mean, because I don't want to scare you. I just want to inform you. Okay? I want to, what the Bible say, seek knowledge, right? What that say? Yes. Parasites can live in a human brain. Okay? Now, let me tell you how they play with us, though. And if you ask them, is dementia, Alzheimer's, anything that's brain related, is due to parasites, it's going to say no. Because they want to make you cause something else, or so that they can make money off of it, when all you have to do is deworm daily, consistently. So I need for y'all to see, yes, parasites can live in a human's brain, leading to what? Bible says lack of knowledge. They don't want us to know these things. They absolutely don't want us to know these things. But, and then you got this toilet white dust seeker. You know, I don't know what his problem is. Okay, JFK brain worms came to the light after experimenting mental loss and mental fatigue, fogginess. The parasites. Okay, so he talked about it. He talked about deworming. He talked about deworming. And if you have any type of animals, you double. So you need to deworm your puppy, but we need to consistently make that a part. Brain worms become a topic of public vaccination Wednesday. Okay, so there we go. Caused by worms. Has been misdiagnosed as actually having dead brain worms in his head. Is that why dark spots, memory loss? There we go. Okay. I hope y'all know that Auntie Fee don't just be talking. I want y'all to know I don't just be talking. Okay? So that's what that is. Now the hard part is going to get us to change our ways and start doing stuff differently, you know, and not necessarily believing everything that the doctors tell us, because they trying to make money. Lord, now I'm finna go off into Room Shaker's recommendation for the tea sippers, but I ran across this too, because this is in the Epstein files, y'all. Now I'm finna show y'all this. This is how she. And then I'm gonna come back and let y'all hear this, so that y'all catch a glimpse of the picture of whatever that is that's look like it's hog tied. Did y'all see that? Let me know that y'all saw it. Okay. Now listen.
I know you will.
Did y'all hear it?
Please do one. I know you will. Shut up! What is your name? Cheryl Dempsey.
Cheryl something.
Slave. Cheryl. Your name is Slave.
Her name is Slave.
I didn't say what is your name, Slave. What?
My name is Slave. My name is Slave. That's in the Epstein files, y'all. That's in the Epstein files. What have I been telling y'all? Making America great again is making America slaves again. So, Room Shaker, something on the Detroit News, they have online grape academy visited by tens of millions of men. Investigation finds. Torture for cash said there's nothing credible. Right me. Right me. I'm not saying anything about dogs. All I'm talking about is parasites and deworming. Do what you want to do. All I am responsible to do as a believer in Christ is spread the word, spread the truth, awareness, let y'all know what's going on, let y'all know what they don't put in your arm if you took that cocktail, why it is important, it is vitally important for us to lean toward holistic healing, because what they're putting in us as far as medicine is to act like it's assisting in one area, but then tearing down something else. Nothing that they provide is for healing, period. And they have a switch that they are planning on flipping at some point for the unhealthy. And they know that they are putting worms and they know what they're doing. So it's up to you to take heed. So let's listen, y'all, to this online Ape Academy. I have not listened to it prior. I wanted us to listen to it together. Let's go.
This month, and tragically, there have been several. Right now, we are halfway through Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and tragically, there have been several headlines in just the last few days that really remind all of us of how prevalent this issue is, particularly when it comes to violence against women. Tonight, we're going to talk about several news stories over the last 7 days that might be really hard to hear, including a U.S. congressman's alleged sexual assaults of multiple women, a renewed discussion over consent, a former lieutenant governor taking the lives of his wife and his own, and a bombshell investigation by CNN exposing a worldwide ring of men who systemically target and abuse their own wives. And that investigation is the main reason we're talking about all of this tonight. My executive producer, Dylan Dahlberg, and I spoke about this at length. And even though this is going to be extremely disturbing and hard to talk about, tough for a lot of people to hear.
Teaching them how to do it or why to do it. Oh, Lord. Let's go. So this is, April is SA Awareness Month. I never knew anything about it.
Tonight, we're going to talk about several news stories over the last 7 days that might be really hard to hear, including a U.S. congressman's alleged sexual assaults of multiple women, a renewed discussion over consent, a former lieutenant governor taking the lives of his wife and his own, and a bombshell investigation by CNN exposing a worldwide ring of men who systemically target and abuse their own wives. And that investigation is the main reason we're talking about all of this tonight. My executive producer, Dylan Dahlberg, and I spoke about this at length. And even though this is going to be extremely disturbing and hard to talk about,
exactly, Miss Tom,
it's an important story that really needs to be talked about. Millions of men from all over the world collaborating on ways to drug and abuse the people they swore vows to love and protect, and teaching each other how to do it. The fallout from this investigation spreading like wildfire on social media. So here to unpack some of this for us is Dr. Tracy Stulberg, a marriage and family therapist who has a lot of experience dealing with tragedies, just like the ones we're talking about tonight. Before we get into it, though, we thought it might be a little bit helpful to take this by the numbers and break down the hard truth behind the topic. Take a look at this. First, in just this last month, there were 82 million visits to that online Rape Academy website. So hard to even say those words, which we're going to talk about in just a second here. Meantime, across the U.S., between 10 to 14% of married women are raped by their partners. And in 17 states, a spouse cannot be convicted of raping a partner who is unconscious, drugged, or otherwise incapacitated, all because of outdated laws still in the books. In the meantime, according to a survey conducted by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, 50% of male college students believe it is impossible for a man to rape his wife, and 34% said they would rape someone if they knew they could get away with it.
Oh,
Now, you may have
wow.
heard people say, not all men, which is by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. 50% of male college students believe it is impossible for a man to rape his wife, and 34% said they would rape someone if they knew they could get away with it. Now, you may have heard people say, not all
Wow.
men, which is shorthand for not all men are responsible for hurting women. Well, when you have statistics as shockingly high as the ones we just mentioned, it's not surprising that you're seeing more and more people say it's all men until it's none of them. Meaning, until women can be sure they don't need to worry about being harmed, it's better to be safe than sorry. And so we thank you so much for joining us here today, Doc.
And you know what's funny? Not funny. That's just, oh man. Oh man, maybe I need to leave that alone. It can be so close, you know, to like you could be married or I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm gonna let that. It's just, ooh, and if you love and care about somebody, even if at any point, even at any point of marriage or relationship, and you don't, I'm gonna leave that alone, man. I believe women that haven't been SA at the point that at any point that your lover, your husband, I don't know if I want to talk about that though. Cause I think sometimes we don't want to say, and it could be male or female. I do believe men are, women can take it from a man just like a man can take it from a woman. I do believe that. I know that there are some young men as kids that have been great. They may have enjoyed it and sometimes may not have known really what was going on, but it's still great. If you are getting it in and you want to stop at any point, you be like, you know, and they don't stop. A lot of times, people don't look at that as great. And I've had to talk to somebody before about that because if, some grown women and men will say, no, that ain't the same. Yeah, but it is. Yeah, but it is. And let me tell you what made me come to that conclusion. I think grown women will say, won't count that as great because they're married or they're in a relationship with somebody. And You know, when you say stop and they keep going and keep going and going, it's like they can't stop. It's like they're in a trance and can't, yeah, shit. I'm in it. So I ain't stopping shit. You know, I'm just gonna keep it real. And then you sitting there saying, God damn, you know, sometimes you may feel disrespected, sometimes you just may be used to it. I don't know. But that's still great. Now, we as women who down for our dudes, we're not gonna say that. We're not gonna say that. Or if you can have kicked it with somebody, dated somebody, or even married to somebody, and they feeling you at a time you're not feeling them, you know. And I don't think any marriage should go a long period of times without being intimate with their mate. The Bible says unless you both agree, and I think at that point it's probably speaking spiritually about during the cycle period. But the Bible, it's in the Bible that we should not be intimate with our mates. It's in there. Trust me, it's in there. But at times when you may not be feeling them, and they'll say, shit, I just take it. And you kind of laugh it off. That's if they take it and y'all kiki ha ha, but you really don't want it. So we have to factor that in. Now I'm laughing because on that one I'm laughing. The other one I was serious and I was about to get emotional because, you know, my nieces. If somebody would do that to my niece, you know, Aunt Laquita would be like, "No, did you tell him no?" Well, I said no. I told him to stop. It was hurting, and he didn't stop. You know, Auntie Fee Laquita would be like, he took it then. So then I had to stop playing with it in my mind because, you know, when it comes to somebody that you love and care for and they're telling you their truths or telling you something that has happened and you're telling them that means that he forced himself on you, then those rules have to apply all the time, not just at our convenience. But I will be honest to say that sometimes men and women, depending on who was forced upon, if you love them or care about them or whatever, you'll make excuses for that. We will make excuses for that. One time, it was a guy I used to interact with some time ago, and I had cut it off, and he came by, stuck his foot in the door because I wouldn't let him in. I said, "No, I was done." He stuck his foot in the door for the girl who was talking about Auntie Fee had cobwebs, and I got folks sticking their foot in the door. Little girl, little ugly hoe girl. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, stuck his foot in the door. And you know how men are. I'm being grown right now. You know, they'll be like, well, can I just and he be like, no. I said no. And then he slipped and said, I'll just take it. And I looked at him and I said, you know, there's a name for that. And I just stared at it. There's a name for that. Yeah, I had to put it out there like that. No, you ain't taking nothing. He ha ha like you playing. I'm not playing. You're not taking shit. And just to think that he said that scared me. I mean, down the line, if that seed is in him, you never know. But why would you play like you gonna take it? Because I don't want to give it to you. I don't play like that. But let me move on. I just thought I would share that. Sometimes you gotta put your real life out there for people to kind of understand and grab it. Oh, look, Queen of Mama. Oh yeah, yeah. And, then you realize when you're teaching them right and how to honor themselves, protect themselves, and stop. Sometimes we will make excuses. I'm not gonna lie. We will make excuses. I kick it with him and, da 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 da, we married or whatever, We come up with 50 million excuses, but we can't do that. We got to make it clear that there's a name to that. We don't need no more negative attention drawn on TV platform. Who was being negative? Oh, wow. I missed it. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, so we just have to be since this is the month for awareness, and this is my first time hearing it. Let me throw my piece off into that. Even if you're in the act and you want to get up, I want them to stop for whatever reason, and they keep going. And you instead of saying, no, stop, and they going harder, trying to get it on. It is what that is, y'all. And you can't get up, you're like, boy, you play too much. No. Okay, let me back it up. Let's pay attention.
Percent of married women are raped by their partners, and in 17 states, a spouse cannot be convicted of raping a partner who is unconscious, drugged, or otherwise incapacitated, all because of outdated laws still in the books. In the meantime, according to a survey conducted by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, 50% of male college students believe it is impossible for a man to rape his wife, and 34% said they would rape someone if they knew they could get away with it. Now, you may have heard people say, not all men, which is shorthand for not all men are responsible for hurting women. Well, when you have statistics as shockingly high as the ones we just mentioned, it's not surprising that you're seeing more and more people say it's all men until it's none of them. Meaning, until women can be sure they don't need to worry about being harmed, it's better to be safe than sorry. And so we thank you so much for joining us here today, Doctor, to unpack some of this.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know it was quite disturbing for you to even hear about this, but anyone who spends time online or in the news talking and listening about
it. But Esther, that's not always the case. That's not always the case, because sometimes he can be, okay. So what about if somebody have been separated, Aunt Esther, or they've been separated and y'all may be trying to reconcile, or you got some of the you have some people who still kick it with their ex because they don't want to kick it with somebody new. Been there, done that. I'm not gonna act like I ain't never been married. I just ain't never put it out there like that. But let's say you've been married, y'all separated, or maybe going through a divorce or what have you. Hell, maybe already divorced, and y'all still, he could still come and do a little maintenance every now and then. But what if? Now this is not me, because never have I ever had that problem with another woman. I'm using a hypothetical. Let's say y'all split because he was cheating. And you was trying to reconcile, or you was just getting it in, and while he was in there, you visualized him sleeping with another woman. Let's say he called out that other woman's name while he was in there. I'm hypothetical, Aunt Esther. Roll with me. And he in there, and he said, "Oh shit," and he say her name, and you say, "Get up. Stop." What you just say? And then he's still going. You tell him to stop, and he don't. You still want him to go, okay, well, just go on. Let me crack my leg up. You done called out somebody's name, but let me go on, get mine out. You saying you wouldn't want to stop? And he calling out some other woman's name? Huh? Come on, Esther. Come on with your fish eye, and this fish eye fool done called you somebody else's name. Let's say he in there and he beating it. That's great. Even if I thought you was saying you wouldn't want him to stop if he was in there. If he's already in, I believe he won't listen. Oh, nor stop. Oh, I thought you were saying you wasn't going to want him to stop. I'm finna say, yeah, but there's still some circumstances. What about the fellas who say, I ain't okay now, but just let me put the tip in. And the tip becomes 6 inches, 8, 9, 10 inches. I thought you just said you was just going, and then he rush up on in there. I'm just saying, for whatever reasons, we're not going to act like there is never a time that, yeah, that's still great. Now, will we call it that if we love them is the problem. Will we just blow it on off if you really just kind of, man, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, they act like they can't hear Aunt Esther when they in that thing. When they in it, it's like their ears shut off. They can't hear no, and when they do hear no, they hear yes. He got to go. Call me the other woman's name by. Yeah, I'm just saying, for whatever reason, I'm just trying to give some examples of how you can be intimate, saying okay at one time, and then flip the script and say no. Let me give you another example. I used to think that, what's the boxer's name? Mike Tyson. I used to think Mike Tyson's situation, and I do apologize now. I used to think Mike Tyson's situation was really not great. If I could be honest with myself. I felt like at that time, I remember saying, girl, you knew at 2 o'clock in the morning what was about to go down. Why would you go to his hotel room? I wouldn't have went to his room. I don't care who he was. I just would not have done it. But, you go up in there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Another thing, how is it great when y'all was doing 6 to 9? You sucking, he licking. I mean, I thought like that. I thought like that. And I'm like, how is it all y'all both pleasing each other? But at any time, she said no. And let me tell you, he's manic. And he's Donald Trump's friend, not to say that, but he's manic. So if she was thinking that he was going to this is how I thought, that he was going to make love to her, and he upped her, and ucking her, the pulling of her hair, just going in like bam, 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 bam. Yeah, and she was telling him to stop. No, and he didn't stop. That's what I think happened. But long time ago, 6 to 9, cool. But if she say stop, no, that's not when she said stop. I think she was saying stop when he was banging her from behind. It was something like that. But when I was hearing 69, but a long time ago, your mind just didn't process. Well, mine didn't. Because I'm thinking, you went up in there, y'all was kicking it, and, y'all was into it. Y'all was pleasing each other at 69. Then how did it become great? Did he bite it or what? I just couldn't process it. But when she was saying it got rough, and when it got rough, she said stop, and he didn't. When it got rough, he didn't stop when she asked him to stop. So we got to be mindful, and shout out to her. Knowing now what I know, I'm glad she did press charges. Knowing that he was a part of the Dumpty Trumpty era. But let's keep going. I'm gonna try not to stop. Well, I gotta stop. Shit. Hold
How to
on.
protect people during this important month, percent said they would rape someone if they knew they could get away with it.
But if
Now,
she says
you may
stop,
have heard people say, not all men, which is shorthand for not
I'm a
all men are
survivor. Let me
responsible for
pause,
hurting.
Melissa. Respect that. I'm a survivor of SA, and Ola states, and stop means stop. No means no. You're absolutely right, Melissa. At any point and at any time. I hope and pray that you have healed. And if you haven't fully, my prayer is that God restore you, heal you. Okay? At any point, a person says no or stop, they need to honor and respect that and stop. Okay?
If they knew they could get away with it. Now, you may have heard people say, not all men, which is shorthand for not all men are responsible for hurting women. Well, when you have statistics as shockingly high as the ones we just mentioned, it's not surprising that you're seeing more and more people say it's all men until it's none of them. Meaning, until women can be sure they don't need to worry about being harmed, it's better to be safe than sorry. And so we thank you so much for joining us here today, Doctor, to unpack some of this.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know it was quite disturbing for you to even hear about this, but anyone who spends time online or in the news talking and listening about how to protect people during this important month would have heard about this rape academy. This is a really disturbing thing.
Rape
Men
academy.
telling other men how to hurt their own spouses. Unpack that for us for a moment.
Well, I was quite shocked. I mean, I thought I couldn't be more surprised since I work with survivors and offenders and family members dealing with many of these issues. But there was some kind of idea that this is okay. And it's not just the person who created this website, who maybe created it because they might make money, but they're also
Yes.
But
A Grape
you're
Academy.
Right, they have some serious mental health issues that obviously other people that are part of this website have as well. When I heard the numbers of people that had visited this, I thought, oh my goodness. But I was trying to think, well, how many does that mean in a day? Or how many does that mean in a year? Where are these people coming from? And what's going to happen when these women get told that they were videotaped by the person who vowed to love, honor, respect them?
And so we take for a moment that supposed academy away for a second and talk about the underlying issue with spousal rape that people don't even consider. In fact, some of the stats that we talked about indicated the way some young men are growing up thinking what is and isn't acceptable. Consent can be given, consent can be taken away as well. Talk about that for a moment.
So, consent, first of all, if you're going to give consent, it can't be obliterated by alcohol or drugs. You can't be sleeping. You need to be verbally able to give consent. And if any time during a sex act either things get dicey or you're not wanting, you can take away consent. But it has to be respected. And we have plenty of people who say, well, no. I mean, if someone told me yes, because I checked and they said, yeah, I'll have sex with you, but then they wanted to stop, no, that you can't do that. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And we're trying to teach our younger people this, but according to whatever survey that was, a lot of people don't.
If I said yes, and you pulled it down your pants and I don't like what I see, and I say, oh, no, let me go. That means I changed my mind. I play too much. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let me back that up.
Yes, because I checked and they said, yeah, I'll have sex with you. But then they wanted to stop. No, that you can't do that. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And we're trying to teach our younger people this, but according to whatever survey that was, a lot of people don't get it. And it's not just them. I work with women that for years did not report to anyone, even family members, that they were being raped by their spouse because they weren't sure if it was rape.
Well, and the myth here
Wow.
is that because you have a
Ain't
wedding
that kinda
ring on
what
your
I'm
hand
saying?
and that you've made a vow with this person, they made a vow to you, that somehow that ensures some kind of a forever bond to be able to do whatever the heck you want. And you're saying, quite to the contrary, as someone who deals with victims all the time, that's just not true.
No.
You don't have right or an access to sex anytime you want.
No, it's not a get sex free card. You have to get consent. And to think that we've raised our
And
women
I'm gonna be
in some ways to not know that difference also is
I don't this is so touchy. It's touchy because I don't know if I want my husband to ask me if it's okay. I don't think I want to be asked if it's okay. I think this is just my opinion, and I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I just think at whatever point that a male or a female say, now, even if a woman is on top of a guy, just, working him, and he say, stop, and the female keep going. And he's like, no, wait, stop. For whatever reason, I guess we all need to respect stop. And I know people are saying, ain't no dude gonna say, yeah, but yeah, men get great, not just by guys, but by girls, females too. We got to stop thinking like that. We got to stop that. But I don't know if I want my mate to say, can I? I don't know if I want to be asked that. I don't know. I don't think I like that. But who am I? I don't know if I like that. I think our energy needs to match, and I just know that, and he know that. I think that our vibe needs to be able to have that look, and just, love a person. Yeah, they just need to know your love language. What y'all think? Do y'all think, because the relationship part is kind of hard, the leader of the Trump, is it Gorgeous George? Oh, Lord, let me keep listening. Is that who's over this? Oh, Lord. Oh.
you need to be verbally able to give consent.
Consent can be given, consent can be taken away as
Absolutely.
well. Talk about that for a moment.
So, consent, first of all, if you're going to give consent, it can't be obliterated by alcohol or drugs.
You
You
know
can't be
what
sleeping.
you like, and
You need to be
know the
verbally
chemistry
able
between
to give
you and that
consent.
person, right?
And if any time during a sex act, either things get dicey or you're not wanting, you can take away consent, but it has to be respected. And we have plenty of people
Who,
say, well,
George?
no. I mean, if someone told me, yes,
Oh,
'cause I
who's a
checked and they
team
said,
Trump is in? So
yeah,
you
I'll have
team
sex with
Trump?
you, but then they wanted to stop. No, that you can't do that. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And
Respectfully, Glorious George, are you saying that you're team Trump? You're the leader of the Trump fan club? Hold on, Melissa. George, are you promoting great? Come on, George, speak up now. You was popping your dick collar a while ago. Are you telling us that you are the leader of the Trump fan club, taking Men, pickles, and female cookies. It's taking you too long to respond. Okay, so yeah, when we have these type of conversations going on, and somebody coming in here promoting that they are cool with the grape and all of that, go ahead and just don't time them out. Time them out for 24 hours. And then I will determine if I need to block them forever. We are team survivors. Male, females, all of that. We are not going to make anybody feel uncomfortable, violated, felt ashamed in their recovery. None of that. I mean, we can have grown talking conversations. We can play and giggle, but we are not going to have a victim over here and feel uncomfortable because somebody want to troll. Yeah, rest in peace, Virginia. We're not going to do that here. This is a safe place for victims. I've never been victimized. I know people who have. And there are people all over the world who have. Some have talked about it. A lot of them haven't. So you will not, and I absolutely mean will not, come over here and pop your mental health, small Peter, Piper, Picture Pepper, whatever that is. Yeah, so get them out. We not going to tolerate none of that. Yeah, I'm very biased when it comes to that. My understanding is zero. Okay? And because you can't try to come in, I'm going to back it up again. You're welcome, Melissa. Yeah, hey. Taman, Miami. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Let's go.
Acceptable. Consent can be given. Consent can be taken away as well.
Absolutely.
Talk about that for a moment.
So, consent, first of all, if you're going to give consent, it can't be obliterated by alcohol or drugs. You can't be sleeping. You need to be verbally able to give consent. And if any time during a sex act, either things get dicey or you're not wanting, you can take away consent. But it has to be respected. And we have plenty of people who say, well, no. I mean, if someone told me yes, because I checked and they said, yeah, I'll have sex with you, but then they wanted to stop, no, that you can't do that. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And we're trying to teach our younger people this, but according to whatever survey that was, a lot of people don't get it. And it's not just them. I work with women that for years did not report to anyone, even family members, that they were being raped by their spouse because they weren't sure if it was rape.
Well, and the myth here is that because you have a wedding ring on your hand and that you've made a vow with this person, they made a vow to you, that somehow that ensures some kind of a forever bond to be able to do whatever the heck you want. And you're saying, quite to the contrary, as someone who deals with victims all the time, that's just not true.
No.
You don't have right or an access to sex anytime you want.
No, it's not a get sex free card. You have to get consent. And to think that we've raised our women in some ways to not know that difference also is very sad. We've had some that say, well, we didn't physically fight anymore, but he made me have sex with him. And you said, well, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. He said, let's have sex. We're going to have sex. And I said, okay. So the message then is that I don't even know if I can say, no, I will not have sex with you. I don't want to have sex with you and have it be respected.
Let's talk about this Congressman Swalwell and the issue that we're seeing here. These are just allegations right now. However, so many of the folks who are on the
a
side
lot of them folks
Swalwell
that are in
attorneys would say
position.
there was consent. Unpack that for us. How important is it for us to make the differentiation between what true consent really is in a case like this.
Well, if you are deciding to have sex with someone, there are plenty of issues, especially with this, that you have to take a look at. One, does he have control over your work? Is this somebody who
Your
you
boss.
report to?
Who
Subordinate.
has rank and power, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a look at plenty of these cases that come up, some of these women felt like they were forced. Some of these women with this particular case, one in particular said she was willing to have sex. But what she wasn't willing to do is go to a bar, think that they're just going to have a drink, and then not remember anything and wake up.
And then we have another case, obviously, in the news on this really important month to talk about stopping violence against women. And this one was the murder-suicide that we just reported up on today with that high-level former lieutenant governor and his wife. This is obviously a very tragic turn of events, but one that we see all too often.
I think you're right. I mean, I believe that there was a restraining order as well because there had been violence in this family. My heart breaks. Those kids were in the house. What had to have been going through his mind to decide he was going to kill this person and then kill himself because he's too much of a coward to...
Sure. Well, it is a very sad case, and that one, of course, is one that continues to haunt so many people. But the most dangerous time for so many people is when they're planning on leaving a marriage, as you've reported to us before. And we know so many therapists have talked about. Look, the bottom line is all of us have a responsibility to call out bad behavior and terrible behavior and abhorrent behavior. And that's hopefully what we're beginning is that we start the conversation at this table. It continues in the important places in your home.
That's what he said, Jazzy.
As well. Dr. Tracy Stolberg, it's so good to see you. Thanks for being with us on a tough assignment for you to talk about and unpack a topic that is certainly very hard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. If you or someone you know is in need of help, advice, or resources, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline, which is run by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. The phone number is 1-800-656.
Just in case somebody needs the hotline number. (800-656-HOPE). You are not alone. Okay. Thank you, Yater Room Shaker. Thank you for bringing us that content. She sent that to me to share. And it's very good information. And we need to know this right now. Because, baby, yeah. That goes for men and women. Absolutely. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Online. Oh, CNN talked about it too. Let me hear their perspective.
An online rape academy was exposed.
An online rape
An
academy.
online rape academy was exposed by a CNN article last month. There is a virtual network that spans across various chats, forums, and porn channels where men post, trade, and even sell videos and streams of them sexually exploiting unconscious victims.
Oh.
Many of them are the wives of these men. Men drugging and raping their own wives. Even streaming it.
So remember when, this is important, y'all. Y'all remember when Diddy, they were saying Diddy didn't get paid. He just like recording. They have a whole online academy where mates selling. Oh, see, this is coming from a different angle. So this is what Diddy was doing to Cassie.
An online rape academy was exposed by a CNN article last month. There is a virtual network that spans across various chats, forums, and porn channels where men post, trade, and even sell videos and streams of them sexually exploiting unconscious victims. Many of them are the wives of these men. Men drugging and raping their own wives and even streaming it, taking direction from other sick men on what to do.
Crystal, you don't know that the ex-lieutenant governor did that the other day to his wife? Why did you block that? That's an ongoing situation right now. She said, I would have never looked at the guy, the lieutenant governor, ex-lieutenant governor guy, at him and think that he would hit his wife, let alone take her life and his. Why did you block that? That's an ongoing situation right now. Yeah, that's an ongoing situation. So I do apologize. That is a current situation that just happened the other day. It was breaking news. I do apologize, Aunt Esther. That should not have been blocked. Let's listen, y'all. Let's pay attention.
An online rape academy was exposed by a CNN article last month. There is a virtual network that spans across various chats, forums, and porn channels where men post, trade, and even sell videos and streams of them sexually exploiting unconscious victims. Many of them are the wives of these men. Men drugging and raping
Cassie,
their own wives
Cassie,
and even streaming it, taking direction from other sick men on what to do. I mean, I don't even have the words to accurately express the deep disgust and fear I feel for women and all other victims of this heinous act.
somebody need to send this to those judges on his
And even
appeal
though it's not an
request.
official academy where men register, it's being described as a rape academy because men give each other step-by-step tips on how to do this. It functions like a training ground for sexual violence.
Hi, Funkin' the
It was
house.
reported
Funk's
that
in the
one
house.
porn site connected to this whole ecosystem pulled
Yeah, this sound like
around
Diddy.
62 million visits. It was reported that one porn site connected to this whole ecosystem pulled around 62 million visits in the month of February alone. It's a site that hosts content of women being assaulted in their sleep. We are entering a new level of dystopia as a species in how pervasive and severe this sickness is amongst men.
And women.
It's a serious global public health crisis of sexual and gender-based violence.
Double
Which, by
tap
the
the
way,
face of your phone.
this goes way back, and in fact, sexual violence was
I be
intentionally
the channel still getting
used as a
money.
weapon to colonize indigenous people here on what is now known as the Americas.
Double tap the face of your
I got a
phone.
video about that coming up, but I had to pause. We are entering a new level of dystopia as a species in how pervasive and severe this sickness is amongst men. It's a serious global public health crisis of sexual and gender-based violence. Which, by the way, this goes way back. And in fact, sexual violence was intentionally used as a weapon to colonize indigenous people here on what is now known as the Americas. I got a video about that coming up, but I had to pause working on it to comment on this disturbing uncovering. Men, we need to be the ones to face it and take a stand against it. In our friendship circles, group chats, and in the communities that we live and work in. Because our silence is exactly what lets this sickness grow and get out of hand.
I agree.
As men of all walks of life, we cannot look away from this anymore. I have a lot more to say on this.
Go out and come back
Next
in,
video. But
Fox in the house.
before I go, to all the people who expressed their disdain for my Instagram post where I showed my firearm in unsuspecting attire, I really hope you keep that same energy about the stories being reported here. There are far more urgent, life-threatening crises to worry about than a man who chooses to carry a firearm as a precaution to keep his family and anyone in his vicinity safe.
I mean, it was probably his six-pack that some other man who didn't have one. Okay, let's get on to. Hey, I don't want to talk about the babies that was unalive, but before I go off into the Trump to the dump 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 and the kooky madness that he have going on, I watched some last night. Let me see if I can find it. And it was odd, and I didn't know if I wanted us to talk about it. But since we have discussed this, it was odd. It was one of those crime things, situations, rescues, crime rescues. Did I delete it altogether? Houston Police Department lieutenant arrested for soliciting minors. Yeah. I must have deleted it because I don't see it. A guy had her chain, her baby daddy, had her was she on the ground or to the floor or something, and he had a whole chain, like collar chain, like you know, like you tie down a dog in the backyard around her neck. They had to get them big old pliers, jaws of life type things to cut that chain off from around this woman's neck. So to hear this today, I'm like, whoa, what in the world is going on? They had to cut this off her neck. I must have deleted it altogether, took it out of my history. Shout out to the survivors, y'all. Shout out to the survivors. Let me get on back over here. I must have took it out. Let's start here.
If you're a woman expert between the ages of 40 and 70 and you have a message that you know could benefit the world in a huge way, here's a woman in her mid-60s.
That conversation to get back to this breaking news we just teased. Just moments ago, the House Oversight Committee released never-before-seen emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, which include correspondence between Epstein and his longtime co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, currently incarcerated on sex trafficking charges. Let's now bring in MSNBC Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delanian, who has been digging through these emails. Ken, what have we learned so far?
Good morning, Jonathan. Well, look, the Epstein estate has released some 23,000 emails, and House Democrats have been poring over them, and they found some correspondence directly mentioning Donald Trump by name. They've released 3 of these emails, and they're quite interesting. The first one was between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein back in 2011, where Epstein wrote that Donald Trump spent hours at my house with an unnamed victim of sex trafficking, whose name is redacted in the email. And Epstein referred to Trump as the dog that hasn't barked.
Hold on. Or her name.
Epstein back in 2011, where Epstein wrote that Donald Trump spent hours at my house with an unnamed victim of sex trafficking, whose name is redacted in the email. And Epstein referred to Trump as the dog that hasn't barked. And then in a separate email years later with author Michael Wolff in
3 emails, 23,000 pages, and 1 sentence from Jeffrey Epstein that is now the center of a political and legal debate about what Donald Trump knew, when he knew it, and what the words of a manipulative monster who wrote them years before his own arrest are worth as evidence. The emails were released by House Democrats on the Oversight Committee in November 2025 from the Epstein estate. The release came in the midst of a months-long political fight over what the government was holding, what it was releasing, and whether the Trump administration was using its control of the executive branch to slow-walk the disclosure of documents that touched on Trump himself. The 3 emails Democrats highlighted contained Epstein's own words about Donald Trump. In a 2011 email to Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein called Trump the dog that hasn't barked and said that an unnamed victim, whose name is redacted, spent hours at my house with him. In a 2019 email to author Michael Wolff, Epstein wrote that Trump knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. In a 2015 email with Wolff, the correspondent suggested Epstein believed he had leverage over Trump and that Trump's denials about visiting Epstein's properties could be used as political currency. The reporter you heard in the clip, Ken Delanian, said directly, Jeffrey Epstein was a manipulative monster and you really cannot take anything he says to the bank. That caveat is correct. It is also incomplete. And understanding why it is incomplete, why the emails matter, even given Epstein's demonstrated dishonesty, is the full story of what these documents revealed, what they proved, what they cannot prove, and what the broader documentary record around Trump and Epstein looks like when the emails are placed in context. Here is the full account of each of the 3 emails, what they say and what the evidentiary limitations are, what the broader Trump-Epstein relationship looked like Across the documentary record before these emails, what the Palm Beach Police Chief FBI interview adds to the picture, what Trump has said, and when his account has changed, why the dog that hasn't barked metaphor is one of the most revealing phrases in the entire file release, and how Republicans responded with their own counter-release, and what that response tells you about how the political battle over the files is being fought.
Wolf in 2019, Epstein said explicitly that Donald Trump, quote, knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. And then the Democrats cite another email with Wolf in 2015 where Epstein and Wolf are discussing if they can craft an answer for an upcoming Donald Trump interview. And Wolf sort of suggests that Epstein has leverage over Donald Trump, saying if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you valuable PR and political currency. Now, look, Jeffrey Epstein, it was a manipulative monster, and so you really can't take anything he says to the bank here. But this is important evidence that people trying to understand what Donald Trump's relationship was with Jeffrey Epstein and what his role was and where he was and did he go to the House. This is important evidence that fills in some blanks on that.
But before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe to Daily News Minutes, leave a like, and comment below what you think about this story. Let me explain the first email specifically, the 2011 email to Ghislaine Maxwell, because the dog that hasn't barked phrase is the most substantively interesting thing Epstein wrote about Trump, and its meaning is worth unpacking carefully. On April 2nd, 2011, Jeffrey Epstein wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell about the lawsuit that had been filed against him by Virginia Roberts Giuffre.
What if you could claim a stake on what's set to be the biggest IPO ever, starting with just $500? Everybody's...
Who alleged she had been recruited as a minor from her job at Mar-a-Lago and trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell. The email was about who had been mentioned publicly in connection with Epstein's crimes, and crucially, who had not been mentioned despite having been present in contexts where the abuse was occurring. The full passage reads, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. The dog that hasn't barked is a reference to a Sherlock Holmes story, Silver Blaze, in which Holmes solves a crime by noting that the guard dog did not bark when the criminal entered, meaning the criminal was someone the dog knew. In the Holmes story, the dog's silence is the evidence. Epstein is using the phrase to say that Trump's absence from the public record and from legal filings, despite having been present in circumstances where Epstein's victims were present, is itself notable. Trump has not been mentioned. The silence is significant. This framing tells you several things about how Epstein was thinking in 2011. He was tracking who had been named publicly and who had not. He was noting Trump's absence from the public record as an asset, something he described as being 75% there, a phrase that suggests he was calculating his own exposure and measuring it against who else could be implicated. He was communicating this calculation to Maxwell in a way that treated the presence of victims at his house during Trump's visits as a shared fact between them. The evidentiary limitations are real. This is Epstein writing to Maxwell.
I need for y'all to hit the
Both
like
of them
button.
have every incentive to exaggerate the scope of powerful people's involvement. Epstein because it supported his belief that his network would protect him. Maxwell because she was as a shared fact exposure and measuring it against who else could be implicated. He was communicating this calculation to Maxwell in a way that treated the presence of victims at his house during Trump's visits as a shared fact between them. The evidentiary limitations are real. This is Epstein writing to Maxwell. Both of them have every incentive to exaggerate the scope of powerful people's involvement. Epstein because it supported his belief that his network would protect him. Maxwell because she was tracking the same legal exposure. The email does not establish what happened during Trump's visits. It does not establish that Trump witnessed anything. It establishes that Epstein believed Virginia Giuffre had been present at his house during Trump's visits and that this fact had not yet been made public. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. In a 2011 email to Maxwell, Epstein called Trump the dog that hasn't barked, wrote that an unnamed victim spent hours at my house with him, and noted he was 75% satisfied with how his legal exposure was being managed. The email establishes that Epstein believed Trump had been in his house when victims were present and that this had not yet become public. Is a convicted sex offender's written assessment, of which powerful people have not yet been publicly named, evidence, context, or the self-serving calculation of a man measuring his own exposure? Let me explain the second email specifically, the 2019 email to Michael Wolff, because it is the most explosive of the three in its directness, and because its context is essential for understanding what it can and cannot establish. In a 2019 email to author Michael Wolff, Epstein wrote, "Of course he knew about the girls," as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Wolff confirmed the email was real. He confirmed it in a video posted to his Instagram following the House Democrats' release, saying this is the Oversight Committee releasing emails that directly link Trump and Epstein, and that he had been trying to talk about this story for a very long time. The email was written in 2019 after Epstein's July arrest. At that point, Epstein knew he was facing a federal sex trafficking prosecution with no obvious path to escape. He was in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, denied bail, with his lawyers fighting to reduce his exposure while he was simultaneously attempting to build a public narrative that would reframe him as a figure of intellectual significance. The evidentiary weight of the email depends heavily on context. Epstein is telling Wolff that Trump knew about the girls, meaning he was aware that the young women around Epstein were victims, because Trump had specifically asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. That claim, if accurate, would mean Trump not only knew about the abuse, but had expressed enough discomfort to ask Maxwell to stop, which would mean he understood what was happening was wrong. The limitation: this is Epstein in jail, writing to a journalist he was actively cultivating. Epstein had demonstrated throughout his life a willingness to manipulate people by sharing supposedly exclusive information that served his own purposes. Telling Wolff that Trump knew and asked Ghislaine to stop serves Epstein's interest in having powerful company, in ensuring that if he goes down, powerful associates are implicated alongside him. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. In a 2019 email to Wolff, Epstein wrote that Trump knew about the girls because he had asked Maxwell to stop. Wolff confirmed the email was real. The email was written after Epstein's arrest, when he had strong incentives to implicate powerful associates. Is a convicted sex trafficker's written claim that Trump knew and asked Maxwell to stop evidence of Trump's knowledge, or evidence of Epstein's motive to implicate powerful people as his prosecution closed in? Let me explain the 2015 email and the leverage question, because it illuminates a dynamic in the Trump-Epstein relationship that the other two emails only gesture toward. In a 2015 email exchange with Wolff, the two were discussing a potential Donald Trump interview. This is 2015, the year Trump announced his presidential campaign. Wolff suggested that Epstein had leverage over Trump, framing it in terms of Trump's denials.
It's
If
obvious
Trump
that
says
he
he hasn't
did
been
have
on the plane
leverage
or
over
to the
him.
House, then
Hold
that gives
on.
you valuable PR and
It's
political.
obvious that he did, because how is Epstein walking around with a whole new face? Huh? A whole facelift that they saying that he had done before he escaped from prison. What's his name, y'all? Palm Beach Pete. Palm Beach Pete is in the Epstein files, they say. How he gonna explain that? Let's go.
Currency. The leverage Wolff describes is informational. If Trump were to publicly deny visiting Epstein's properties or flying on his plane, and Epstein possessed documentary evidence, flight logs, photographs, witness accounts that contradicted those denials, that contradiction would be politically damaging. The leverage is the gap between what Trump would say publicly and what Epstein could prove privately. This email matters for several reasons. It was written before Trump had won the Republican nomination, suggesting Epstein and his associates were already tracking Trump's political trajectory and thinking about how his association with Epstein could be managed or exploited. It shows Epstein as someone who understood the informational architecture of his relationships with powerful people, who knew what, who had been where, who would lie about it publicly, and who could be damaged by the evidence. Whether that informational collection was deliberate leverage or simply the hoarding behavior of a man who understood that information was power depends on evidence not yet fully disclosed. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. In a 2015 email exchange, Wolf described Trump's potential denials about visiting Epstein's properties as giving Epstein valuable political currency. The exchange was written before Trump won the nomination, suggesting Epstein was already managing the informational architecture of his relationship with a future president. Is a dynamic in which a sex offender holds informational leverage over a future president, a personal friendship, or something that raises questions about how both men understood the relationship. Let me explain the Palm Beach Police Chief FBI interview, because it adds a dimension to the picture that the emails do not cover and that receives significantly less attention. In February 2026, as part of the broader DOJ release, an FBI document became public recording a 2019 interview with the former
Dolores.
chief of police of Palm Beach. The police chief stated that Donald Trump had called the Palm Beach Police Department in 2006, at the time the department was conducting its initial investigation into Epstein, and told the chief that Epstein had been doing this for years and that everyone knew. The reported quote attributed to Trump was, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Trump's camp denied the specific account. The Palm Beach investigation in 2006 led to the sweetheart plea deal negotiated by Alexander Acosta in 2008, giving Epstein 13 months in a county jail with work release rather than a federal sentence, and granting immunity to unnamed co-conspirators. The police chief...
Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
February 2026, as part of the broader DOJ release, an FBI document became public recording a 2019 interview with the former chief of police of Palm Beach. The police chief stated that Donald Trump had called the Palm Beach Police Department in 2006, at the time the department was conducting its initial investigation into Epstein, and told the chief that Epstein had been doing this for years and that everyone knew. The reported quote attributed to Trump was, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Trump's camp denied the specific account. The Palm Beach investigation in 2006 led to the sweetheart plea deal negotiated by Alexander Acosta in 2008, giving Epstein 13 months in a county jail with work release rather than a federal sentence, and granting immunity to unnamed co-conspirators. The police chief's account, if accurate, directly contradicts Trump's consistent public position that he was unaware of Epstein's abuse of minors and cut ties when he learned of the allegations. An account in which Trump told police in 2006 that everyone knew places his knowledge at least 13 years before his public statement suggested he became aware of it. It appears in an FBI interview conducted under circumstances in which lying to federal investigators carries legal consequences, and describes a specific interaction with specific quoted language. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like,
So why they
and
bringing
comment
this
below.
up like Trump
An
is something?
FBI document recorded a former Palm Beach police chief's account
Hi,
of a
Jordan.
2006 phone call from Trump in which Trump said everyone had known about Epstein's behavior for years. Trump has consistently said he became aware of the allegations and cut ties. Is the combination of
Lies.
Epstein's 2011 email and a
I
former
wanted the
police
bond to
chief's
give up,
FBI
give
account
up
of
the
a
documents
2006 Trump phone call,
since
a
she done
pattern or
got
two
fired.
data points that cannot be reliably combined. Let me explain Trump's stated account of the relationship and where it has shifted, because multiple versions of the story exist in the public record, and tracking them is relevant to evaluating everything else. In a 2002 New York Magazine interview, Trump said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific
Of course
guy.
she did
He's
not.
a lot
You
of
don't
fun to
think
be
so?
with." It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are
She
on the
was
younger
one of
side.
them.
After Epstein's 2008 conviction, Trump began distancing himself. After Epstein's 2019 death, Trump said they had a falling out approximately 15 years earlier. By 2025, Trump described
That
him as
may
a
be why
casual
she got,
acquaintance,
maybe some
no
of the
different
reasons
from
she got
anyone
fired
else
as
in his
well.
social
That
world.
girl.
The New York Times reported
Y'all,
in
come on.
December
It's
2020.
just too many coincidences. You know, we don't. I'm saying we. I'm looping y'all in my. We done figured out that she was one of them little kids. Auntie Fee. Auntie Fee. I can't say we figured it out. But anyway, Bondi ass was a possible victim. Melania was a possible victim. That Amanda Ugaro, she was one, and then they deported her to, you know, they changed child support laws, and they've been doing all type of stuff. But I'm thinking why they talking about it and reminding us, and why is Palm Beach Pete surfacing? Department of Justice will be in trouble. Maybe not her, but yeah, because he was supposedly taking his life in jail. However, we know now that all that was staged, because we got Palm Beach Pete. And that was mentioned in them Epstein files. And you got too many people jumping out, talking, survivors, exposing Sasha Riley, the limousine driver. That young lady, Amanda Wood, had that conversation with the Department of Justice when her child was deported, and when she was deported from her child under Bondi. Yeah, I think she better talk. I think she better give them, because she's still up under up under the law, supposed to render to that subpoena. That didn't exempt her. It's a lot going on. A lot of cover up, a lot of trafficking, and they don't put these people in position to steal, to manipulate, to, that girl got busted, and a lot of these people are getting busted with a bogus business. That's Trump all over. Trump is stamped all over. So they don't possibly groom these kids, and they put them in position for them to take over the world. They trying to duplicate the Rothschilds.
25 described the relationship as intense and complicated, placing it in the specific social context of Palm Beach and New York in the late 1980s
Palm
through
Beach
early
Pete.
2000s. Two men who moved in the same circles, competed for the same social status, and shared at minimum an awareness of each other's behavior with young women. Each version of Trump's story corresponds to a moment when the political cost of the previous version became too high. The 2002 praise made sense when Epstein was a social asset. The 2008 distancing made sense when Epstein became a legal liability. The 2025 minimization makes sense when the files risk damaging the presidency. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video,
Y'all please hit
subscribe
the
to the
like
channel,
button. Double
leave a
tap
like,
those.
and
Well,
comment
just tap
below.
those three dots at the
Trump's description of
top,
his relationship with Epstein has changed
and
at
it'll
least
show
4
you to the
times over
thumbs up.
20 years. Each version corresponds to a moment when the political cost of the previous version became too high. Is a relationship whose description has changed 4 times a casual acquaintance or a history being managed? Let me explain the broader Republican response to the Democratic email release, because the political battle was not one-sided, and understanding the counter-release is important for placing the 3 highlighted emails in full context. When House Democrats released the 3 emails in November 2025, Republicans on the same committee responded the same day by releasing 20,000 additional pages from the Epstein estate, explicitly framing it as evidence that Epstein's communications implicated figures across the political spectrum. Among the most notable documents, a 2017 email from Larry Summers, Treasury Secretary under Clinton, economic advisor to Obama, asking Epstein, "How guilty is Donald?" Summers listed categories of culpability and asked Epstein to assess which applied to Trump. The email was written in 2017, 9 years after Epstein's first conviction. A man at Summers' level was still using Epstein as a political sounding board years after his criminality was publicly established, because the people in Epstein's network found him useful. The volume strategy Republicans deployed was effective in media terms, flooding the zone with 20,000 pages on the same day Democrats released 3 emails, made comprehensive coverage difficult, and allowed both sides to select the documents most favorable to their political arguments.
The way that y'all have gone crazy over these shirts for 2 years in a row, I am not kidding. These shirts sell out.
This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. Republicans released 20,000 pages on the same day Democrats released 3 Trump-focused emails, including a 2017 Larry Summers message asking Epstein to assess Trump's guilt. The counter-release reframed the story from what Trump knew to Epstein communicated across both parties. Is a volume counter-release a transparency effort or a political strategy designed to prevent any single finding from dominating the story? And here is the final frame. 3 emails. A 2011 message calling Trump the dog that hasn't barked. A 2019 message saying Trump knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. A 2015 exchange in which Epstein's leverage was described as political currency. A 2006 phone call, recorded in a 2019 FBI interview, in which a former Palm Beach police chief said Trump told him everyone had known about Epstein's behavior for years. Ken Delanian was right. Epstein was a manipulative monster, and you cannot take anything he says to the bank. That caveat applies to every word Epstein wrote. It does not mean the words are irrelevant. It means they have to be evaluated against the rest of the record. The flight logs, the shifting public statements, the 2002 interview praising Epstein's taste for women on the younger side, the police chief's FBI account. The full picture is not a case. It is not proof. It is a documented pattern of proximity, of knowledge that multiple people around Epstein appear to have had about what he was doing, and of public statements that have evolved every time the political cost of the previous version became too high. The dog that hasn't barked, Epstein wrote in 2011, is Trump. For 14 years, that was true. The question the files raise is whether the silence, delayed by death and litigation and political calculation, is finally ending. We just cover what happened. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. Okay,
let me see what I got next. Based on how y'all hitting the like button, and I'm not getting no support through my Cash App, I'm not going to be on here long. I'm going to tell y'all that now. I'm going to be honest. The truth going to set us free. I can't do it like that. Let me see. Oh, I put him up here. Let me see what he had to say. Let's go. And I'm not going to keep asking y'all to hit the like button. You should know how to do that already. And I'm not, yeah. Hit the like button.
taste of his own medicine
CA.
by Iranian social
Hello.
media accounts. They keep on haunting him. Donald Trump is losing it as he's getting a taste of his own medicine by Iranian social media accounts. They keep on haunting him with these videos and posts after posts. They are out trolling him.
They
By
really are out
far. Here
trolling
they
him.
are posting an AI video, one of these Lego videos of MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, standing over Donald Trump's house with a stereo, reminding Donald Trump that he's covering up a child sex trafficking ring with the Epstein files. Play this clip.
Liar! Labor of blood on your pride. Island Epstein secrets you hide. All your crimes buried deep inside. Rotten systems you're gonna
See, them stuff like that is what.
Then the Iranian social media accounts are.
See, it's stuff like that with this inauthentic content that they are demonetizing people from. It's just like all this AI, and a lot of what's happened is with those setups, they have multiple accounts, multiple pages, and then people who are only doing content on them, you know, are getting lost in the sauce as well. It's just a lot of dual accounts playing the same thing back to back or simultaneously. All of that, they finna, you know, it's finna hit all of us. So don't get to laughing just too fast, people. Yeah, especially those who use AI. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah, please donate, Blues Man. Yeah, because I got plenty of tea. But I hate to say it. Y'all finna know. Y'all know y'all know my next bar. I got plenty of tea, but it ain't free. Help Auntie Fee. Bring the tea. Woo, she got bars, y'all. She really do got bars.
They are posting an AI video.
Thank you, Blues Man. I appreciate you putting it down there.
Iran's parliament
Donate,
leader,
folks.
standing over Donald Trump's house with a stereo, reminding Donald Trump that he's covering up a child sex trafficking ring with the Epstein files. Play this clip.
Liar! Labor of blood on your pride. Island Epstein secrets you hide. All your crimes buried deep inside. Rotten systems you're gonna slide.
Then the Iranian social media accounts are posting amateur hour diplomacy and mocking Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for not knowing the most basics of negotiation. Let's play it. And here the Iranian social media accounts call Pete Hegseth.
They are definitely
Pete
out,
Fiction right on,
trolling
Pete
Trump.
Hegseth was quoting fake Bible verses from Pulp Fiction and continues to invoke the name of God in order to commit war crimes. Here, play this clip.
The person who invented this multifunctional weeder deserves a promotion and a raise. With it, you never have to pull weeds by hand again.
Then there's more posts from Iranian social media accounts like this in response to Donald Trump saying, a great and brilliant day for the world, DJT, when Donald Trump made all of those lies about the Strait of Hormuz open, Iran turning over nuclear material, Iran allowing the United States to go into the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran giving up all of its weapons and agreeing to everything. The Iranian social media account responds, try not to show yourself too happy, have a little prestige, never emphasize, never think to the new legal regime of the Strait of Iran, we'll fix it. Turn off the phone, Donald, relax, no more posts, and block Bibi for 1 week. Eat a light dinner and sleep well. Then when Donald Trump made a social media post saying, Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you.
by the way, which wasn't even true, but Trump called it the Strait of Iran. The Iranian embassies were like, bad mood, it's called the Strait of Trump. Normal mood,
Yeah,
Strait of
that blew me
Good
a little
mood,
bit yesterday.
Strait of Iran. Then
The
Iran was
Strait
out
of
with more
Trump.
social media videos. I mean, they make these like AI Lego videos like immediately. It's unbelievable the speed at which they're producing these things. Here they are eviscerating Kash Patel. This is their parody video about Kash Patel after the news broke about kind of Kash Patel, what's going on behind the scenes.
He
And
swing
Kash
his
Patel
hips.
denies it. And but here's what Iran is posting as a parody. Play this clip.
They knock on your door. Bang, bang. They knock on your door. Cash Patel name on the badge. Talk big boy now stuck in the act. Said burn it down, said clear fast. Now you run what you used to trash. Built that image, sold that fight. Camera hit, you lost that light. All that talk don't hold that weight. Vote real quick when it's high stakes. Bang, bang, better ram, hit the door. Drunk, you laid on the floor. Yeah. Bang, bang, hear the sound, break it down. Built it up just to lose it now. Late night spin, can't stand straight. Agents not too damn late. Knock, 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 still no reply. Top seat silent. Wonder why, bring the ram, break that frame. Top of power, still the same. Unreachable when it counts the most. Playing leader, acting ghost. Nashville lights, but the voice ain't there. Stage look loud, but the crowd don't care. Auto-tune dreams, no real tone. Dead crowd stay all on their phone. You full of lights, push that show, but the streets stay flat. Don't bro, country act, but it don't feel right. More like dress up on the stage light. You said you take it all down. Now you're lost in the sound. You said you stand your ground. Now you're falling right now. USA ice, drill one skate, take real hits, play real fake. You're thin ice, lose that pace. Stop right out, can't hold your place. Bang, bang, battering ram, hit the door. Drunk, you laid on the floor. Yeah. Bang, bang, hear the sound, break it down. Back down. Built it up, now we're breaking down. Bang, 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 bang. Echo the hall. You went up, now you fall.
Then they did this video about Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk and the whole kind of MAGA influencer movement. Here, play this clip.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, I'm finna cut this one because I'm thinking this is part of the reason why people are being demonetized. I think it's all this Lego stuff and all of these little, and it may not be. It could just be that's the hustle from YouTube. I don't know.
Across this entire wall without a single wire in
Hold
sight.
on.
You know, I've been watching what's unfolding between the United States and Iran this past week. And I want to talk to you not as a partisan, not as someone trying to score points, but as someone who sat behind that desk in the Oval Office and knows what it feels like when the weight of war and peace is on your shoulders. Right now, as I speak to you, there is a ceasefire between the United States and Iran that expires on April 22nd. That's days away. And rather than seeing a unified, disciplined American government working around the clock to extend that ceasefire and protect American lives, what we're seeing is something I never thought I'd witness in my lifetime. Confusion, contradiction, and a kind of chaos that in the world of diplomacy can get people killed. Just today, President Trump told ABC News that Vice President Vance would not be going to Islamabad for the second round of talks. He said it was because of security, but here's the thing. Just an hour earlier, the White House itself had confirmed that Vance would lead the delegation alongside Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Now, I want you to sit with that for a moment. The President of the United States said one thing on national television, and his own White House said the opposite within the same news cycle. And this is happening while the other side, Iran, is watching every single word we say. When I sat in that Oval Office, I learned one thing very early. The world doesn't wait for you to get your story straight. And we'll come back to that in a moment, because the contradictions don't stop there. Now, to understand where we are today, you've got to understand how we got here, because none of this was inevitable. Every step of this crisis was the product of choices, human choices, leadership choices. On February 28th of this year, the United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran. Iran retaliated. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil passes every single day, was effectively shut down. Global shipping froze. Energy markets spiraled. And suddenly the world was staring at one of the worst energy crises in decades. Now look, I'm not going to pretend the Iranian nuclear threat isn't real. It is. When I was president, we worked every day to contain proliferation through patient, multilateral diplomacy. The JCPOA under President Obama, whatever you thought of its details, achieved a 15-year moratorium on enrichment through negotiation, not through bombing, not through ultimatums, through sitting across the table and doing the hard, unglamorous work of finding common ground.
I gifted my husband these pants, and now he wears them everywhere. Meet mesh irons, the most...
Pakistan stepped in to mediate, and on April 8th,
Hi,
brokered a
Alvin.
2-week ceasefire. That was the right instinct. Get people talking, stop the dying, buy time. But here's the core tension that broke the first round of talks. The United States demanded a 20-year suspension of uranium enrichment. Iran offered 5. That's a massive gap. And this is where things start to get really complicated, because closing that gap requires the kind of trust and credibility that you cannot build if your own government can't agree on who's getting on the plane. Let me tell you something. When you've been in government as long as I have, you learn to read a crisis not by the headlines, but by the details. And the details right now are deeply troubling. So let me walk you through what actually happened. First, the delegation chaos. Multiple senior officials, the UN ambassador, the energy secretary, publicly confirmed Vance would lead the second round of talks in Islamabad. Then the president contradicted them on camera. Then the White House reversed the president in the middle of the most sensitive negotiation in a generation. That's not a communications glitch. That's a system that isn't functioning. Second, the ultimatum. President Trump posted that if Iran doesn't accept the deal, the United States will knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. He said a deal will happen the nice way or the hard way. Now, I understand the instinct to project strength, but when you say that publicly, you've just told the other side that your fallback position is total war. And you've told your own negotiators that they have no room to maneuver. Third, Islamabad is under a security lockdown unlike anything Pakistan has ever seen. The Serena Hotel has evacuated its guests. Universities have moved online. 10,000 police are deployed. This isn't a peace conference atmosphere. It's a war footing. Fourth, on Saturday, Iranian gunboats opened fire on at least 2 Indian-flagged merchant ships in the Strait of Hormuz. India summoned Iran's ambassador. The ceasefire is hanging by a thread. And behind all of this Iran hasn't even formally confirmed it will send a delegation to the second round because Tehran says there can be no talks while the U.S. naval blockade remains in force. We've got to remember something fundamental about the American presidency. When you speak, the world listens. Every word, every pause, every contradiction. And when you're in a crisis, a real crisis, where people are dying and the ceasefire clock is ticking down, clarity isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Let me be specific about 3 leadership failures that concern me deeply. The first is the Vance contradiction. You cannot have the President of the United States telling the nation one thing on television while his own staff is telling the wire services the opposite. The Iranians are sophisticated. They have an entire intelligence apparatus analyzing every American statement in real time. When they see that kind of disarray, it doesn't make them more willing to deal. It makes them wonder whether any commitment the United States makes can actually be kept. The second is the ultimatum language. Knock out every single power plant and every single bridge. Now, I've been in rooms where military options were on the table. I managed the North Korea nuclear crisis. I authorized action in Bosnia and Kosovo. And here's what I learned. The most effective presidents keep their options open and their rhetoric measured. The moment you publicly commit to total destruction as your alternative, you've backed yourself into a corner. What happens if Iran calls the bluff? You've left yourself no middle ground. The third is the blockade. Imposing a naval blockade after the first round of talks collapsed may feel like leverage, but Iran has declared it an act of war, a war crime, they say. And whether you agree with that characterization or not, you've given Tehran a reason to refuse to show up. That's not strategy. That's making your own job harder. Now, I'll give credit where it's due. Convening the Situation Room War Cabinet was the right instinct. But execution matters more than instinct. And right now, the execution is not matching the gravity of the moment.
Watch what happens when a 50-year-old man blocks DHT naturally for just 90 days. Day 1, nothing visible yet. Just another middle-aged guy staring at his disappearing hairline. Day 30, baby hairs start appearing where there was nothing. Day 60, balding spots filling in with new growth. Day 90, his hairline is fuller, thicker, and moving forward. At 50, you've probably been told your hair loss is permanent. That ship has sailed. That you should just accept it or drop $10,000 on a transplant. But what if everything you've been told about age and hair regrowth was wrong? Here's what nobody tells you about DHT.
I need y'all to hit the like button, please.
Here's the honest truth that I think most people haven't fully absorbed yet. This crisis is not just about Iran, and it's not just about one administration. It's about whether the institutional architecture that makes American diplomacy work, the architecture that generations of presidents, Republican and Democrat alike, built and maintained, can survive this kind of strain. Let me tell you what I mean. When the United States speaks with multiple voices on the world stage, it doesn't just
We appreciate him telling us what's going on.
It undermines every.
So if y'all don't appreciate him telling us the truth, y'all may want to go ahead and exit. Yeah, we would rather him than Trump. Most definitely. At least he keeps us informed with the truth. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Hold on. Y'all want us to believe the lies. Oh, okay, no. We about the truth over here, and we about the victims. I don't know where y'all from. What y'all got going on? I didn't finish setting it up right. My bad. I got it. My fault, y'all. No, we're not doing that. Can y'all hit those three dots at the top right and go hit the thumbs up? Hit the lights up. Why y'all hating on him for telling the truth? Y'all don't want us to know what's really going on? Y'all want everybody to believe the lie? Oh, God bless you. May he heal your mind and heart.
The moment you publicly commit to total destruction as your alternative, you've backed yourself into a corner.
And he is definitely backed in a
What
corner.
happens if Iran calls the bluff? You've left yourself no middle ground. The third is the blockade.
Right.
Imposing a naval blockade after the first round of talks collapsed may feel like leverage, but Iran has declared it an act of war, a war crime, they say. And whether you agree with that characterization or not, you've given Tehran a reason to refuse to show up. That's not strategy. That's making your own job harder. Now, I'll give credit where it's due. Convening the Situation Room War Cabinet was the right instinct. But execution matters more than instinct. And right now, the execution is not matching the gravity of the moment. Here's the honest truth that I think most people haven't fully absorbed yet. This crisis is not just about Iran, and it's not just about one administration. It's about whether the institutional architecture that makes American diplomacy work, the architecture that generations of presidents, Republican and Democrat alike, built and maintained, can survive this kind of strain. Let me tell you what I mean. When the United States speaks with multiple voices on the world stage, it doesn't just confuse one negotiation. It undermines every negotiation. Every ally, every adversary, every nation sitting on the fence recalibrates their assessment of American reliability. India is summoning the Iranian ambassador over ships being fired upon in the Strait. France just lost a peacekeeper in Lebanon. The entire global energy market is in crisis. And the United States, the country that is supposed to be the anchor of stability, can't tell the world whether its own vice president is getting on a plane. Pakistan, a country with its own enormous internal challenges, is now serving as the primary mediator between the United States and a major adversary. I want you to sit with what that means for a moment. Not because there's anything wrong with Pakistani diplomacy. Field Marshal Asim Munir's 3-day visit to Tehran was genuinely constructive. But it tells you something about where American diplomatic credibility stands right now. And here's what worries me most. When institutions are weakened in one crisis, they don't magically recover for the next one. The damage compounds. The trust deficit grows. And the next president, whoever that may be, inherits a world that trusts America less. That is a cost we will be paying for years. Now, I've been in politics my whole life, and I'm not naive about the pressures a president faces during a crisis. Every president calculates. How does this look? What does this mean for my agenda? Who's up and who's down inside the building? I did it too. But there's a line between managing the politics of a crisis and letting the politics drive the crisis. And I believe that line has been crossed. Look at the composition of the negotiating team. The vice president, a special envoy, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law.
When my daughter told me she ordered solid gold jewelry for under $40, I told her she got scammed. But then I learned about Maya and Henry. They've been handcrafting fine gold jewelry for 33 years, and now they're retiring. Because they need to clear out their entire inventory, everything is 80% off until they officially close. I decided to test it out and ordered multiple rings, a bracelet set, and a necklace. When the package arrived, I was blown away by how beautifully everything.
Now, I don't question anyone's right to serve their country, but when your chief negotiator is a family member, your envoy is a political loyalist, and the vice president, who reportedly had reservations about the war itself, gets publicly undercut by the president hours before the talks, you've got to ask yourself an honest question. Is this a negotiating team, or is this a political operation? And then there's the rhetoric. No more Mr. Nice Guy. The nice way or the hard way. This language isn't designed for Tehran. It's designed for a domestic audience. It's branding. And when war and peace decisions become extensions of political branding, the consequences aren't abstract. They are measured in lives. Over 3,000 people have already died in Iran, more than 2,000 in Lebanon. American service members have been killed. Every president faces the temptation to let politics shape their foreign policy. The measure of leadership is whether you resist that temptation when it matters most. And right now, with the ceasefire expiring in days, and the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed, it matters more than it has in a very long time. Let me tell you what I think the realistic possibilities are as we approach April 22nd, because I believe you deserve honesty, not spin. The first possibility is the last-minute framework. Iran agrees to return to Islamabad under certain conditions, perhaps a partial easing of the blockade, and both sides agree to extend the ceasefire while they continue negotiating on the enrichment question. Maybe they land somewhere between 5 and 20 years.
I hope they
say
stop
10 or
this
12,
mess. I hope they don't carry
with a
this war
verification
unnecessarily out
That
for
would be
years,
the best realistic outcome.
just so they can rebuild their
But
countries
given the current trust deficit,
and tear up ours.
given the contradictory signals, given that Iran hasn't even confirmed it will send a delegation, I'd rate this as possible but unlikely without a significant change in tone from Washington. The second possibility is that the ceasefire expires and hostilities resume. The United States strikes Iranian infrastructure. Iran retaliates against Gulf states and international shipping. Oil prices, already elevated, spiked to levels we haven't seen since the 1970s. The conflict draws in more regional actors. Iraq destabilizes further. Lebanon, where a fragile ceasefire with Hezbollah just took hold on Friday, slides back into war. This is the scenario that keeps me up at night, because once you restart a war, stopping it again is exponentially harder. The third possibility, and honestly the one I think is most likely in the short term, is an extended stalemate. Neither side formally resumes full-scale hostilities, but the blockade continues, the strait remains contested, and the conflict becomes a frozen war of attrition. This is insidious because it creates the illusion of non-war while the suffering compounds for the Iranian people, for global consumers, for the 20,000 seafarers trapped on ships in the Gulf. The world pays the price and nobody takes responsibility. I want to close with something I feel very strongly about. And I hope you'll hear me not as a Democrat, but as an American who loves this country and has devoted his life to its promise. America's strength has never come from threatening to destroy civilizations. It has never come from ultimatums delivered on social media or from negotiating teams that contradict each other on the way to the airport. America's strength, the real, enduring, world-shaping strength that won the Cold War and built the international order, came from our ability to build coalitions, to lead with credibility, to offer a vision of the world that other nations wanted to be part of. I'm not dismissing the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. That threat is real, and it demands serious, sustained attention. But seriousness demands discipline. It demands a government that speaks with one voice. It demands a strategy that leaves room for diplomacy to work, even when diplomacy is hard and slow and frustrating. And it demands that Congress, our Congress, the people's branch, exercise its constitutional authority over questions of war and peace, not sit on the sidelines while the executive branch wages war by social media posts. We've come back from worse. I've seen this country at its lowest moments find its way back to its best self. But that only happened because in those moments, good people stood up in both parties, in communities across this nation, and said, this isn't who we are.
Right.
This isn't how we lead.
Right.
And I believe that's still true. I have to believe that. Because the alternative, a world where the greatest democracy on earth stumbles into an uncontrolled war because its own leaders couldn't get on the same page, that's not an alternative I'm willing to accept. And I don't think you should accept it either.
Why do so many people trust iHerb for their health and wellness products? Simple. We guarantee freshness. Buy direct from many.
And so once again, one of our
Known friendship was, quote, deeper, chummier, and more expansive than previously known. In the text, the two frequently Donald Trump's Epstein.
This just popped up here, y'all. Hold on. Let me see where else I'm going. Hold on.
War in Iran has been admitted. War in Iran has been an admitted neocon project since the Bush era.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Trump administration, and now in its second iteration, the first time they claimed they were anti-neocon and anti-endless war when they came to power.
She's
they
a
were
CIA
not.
expert
And so now they are
analysis
just doing
of
a worse version of that because Trump doesn't have to get elected again. They were there to try and convince people, this time I won't do it, because the first time they to power, they were not. And so now they are just doing a worse version of that because Trump doesn't have to get elected again. They were there to try and convince people that war in Iran has been an admitted neocon project since the Bush era.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Trump administration, and now in its second iteration, the first time they claimed they were anti-neocon and anti-endless war when they came to power, they were not. And so now they are just doing a worse version of that because Trump doesn't have to get elected again. They were there to try and convince people,
But
this time I won't do it,
to.
because the first time they tried to start a war with Iran by assassinating Qasem Soleimani.
Whitney Webb said it plainly. They put TV personalities and podcast influencers in cabinet positions for one specific reason. So when they told your favorite anti-war voice to sell you a war with Iran, you would trust them. Tulsi Gabbard just sat in front of Congress and refused to answer whether she still believes what she said in 2020. Webb saw this coming before Gabbard ever took the job.
So he put
Well, I would
content
say, look at what's
creators.
happening in the American media landscape right now. So if it's not being
Interesting.
controlled by big tech oligarchs like the ones we've all been talking about today, it's about to be all pretty much controlled by the.
So he put content creators on his cabinet on purpose. And now that content creators are speaking against him and not falling for the banana in the tailpipe, now they have it set up for it to be demonetized, to take the money, since they're not going along with they plan. Got it.
Still believes what she said in 2020. Webb saw this coming before Gabbard ever took the job.
Well, I would say, look at what's happening in the American media landscape right now. So if it's not being controlled by big tech oligarchs like the ones we've all been talking about today, it's about to be all pretty much controlled by the Ellison family. And I have a feeling that if you want to be on the Ellison family-owned network, you probably have to like Israel, because they're they're rabid Zionists. And they actually, it wasn't Larry Ellison so much directly.
Y'all see the direction?
I mean, if you know, the TikTok sandals are literally viral here. The price is super low, true to size. You get your gold embellishment.
In Trump's first term, it was longtime Oracle president Safra Katz, who was very involved in Trump's first term. She's actually the one that got H.R. McMaster fired as national security advisor by going through Sheldon Adelson, who was her friend, and saying that John Bolton should be hired. Yeah, so these are people that have been influencing Trump for a long time.
Narrative.
And he seems to be involving
the pro-Trump
himself
narrative,
in allowing
pro-Israel
them to
narrative
media empire, even though it would normally be, antitrust laws would normally come into play.
Normally.
But it's not really convenient. Larry Ellison was also just added to this new board of science advisors that Trump made. And he has some very disturbing quotes about mass surveillance, such as, citizens better be on their best behavior once AI is surveilling everybody. And I guess that means they have to watch what they say about his favorite neo-colonial ethno-state pet project.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
This was clear at the end of Trump's first term, if not earlier than that this is where Trump was going to take it, because the people he puts in charge, just like he did in his first term, are rebranded neocons. And they are going to try and wealth transfer through endless wars. And if it's not just endless wars, it will be the downstream economic devastation that the destabilizing effect of this war will have on oil markets that will cause a lot of problems for the rest of us, but not like Trump, not for Trump and his billionaire friends, or for the people that are insider trading the information on Polymarket, where insider trading is now legal, or on Kalshi, where Don, which is
he
also
set
a
it all
prediction
up,
market
didn't
where
he?
people can bet on world events, and Don Jr. is on the board of that, I believe. So, it's basically plutocracy, and unfortunately, the U.S. and Israel have horrendous track records when it comes to civilian deaths, and it's nasty and terrible and makes me sick to my stomach that so many innocent people are dying so the rich can get richer. I don't know what else to say about it, except I would like to point out to people that Pete Hegseth is a clown, but he's not actually in charge. People should be looking at the Deputy Secretary of War, who's actually running things, because Pete Hegseth doesn't know. I mean, he's obviously retarded. So the person behind him is the person running things, and it's Steve Feinberg of Cerberus Capital Management, which the people on its board are a host of ex-spooks and former top neocon officials. And he used to own DynCorp and other major military contractors, and is a very shady dude. He's also very good friends with Peter Thiel, and that's why he gave the contract for the Golden Dome to Thiel.
Are y'all listening with your good ear?
Like Anduril, who we talked about earlier, being brought to Ohio, and the Southern Air Transport Airport by Jobs, Ohio. But, we need to pay attention to these people that are actually running stuff. I would like to see a lot more people talking about Steve Feinberg and his role in this war. It's, instead of, Pete the Hegseth is a Fox and Friends TV host. He's there to serve that function as the public face to, boomers that liked watching him on Fox News, hoping that they would trust him when he leads them into war with Iran and boots on the ground and whatever. Crazy to see what's been going on with this war, because a lot of people like to paint it as incompetence, what the Trump administration has been doing in a communications sense. But really what they're doing is that they've turned the White House into a trading desk, and they're causing all of this volatility because Trump can cause volatility in these markets just by tweeting something or putting something on Truth Social or saying anything. And even the Iranians deny it because it's not happening, but he's just saying whatever to swing markets, and they're insider trading all of it. Yeah, they blocked me out of Twitter, and then I got back in, and then my co-author on this piece, immediately after I was locked out of Twitter, he was locked out of Twitter. And then we started a publishing company a few months ago, and several orders of our first book were sent back, and the author of the book thinks it's politically motivated because this has happened to him before. So maybe, I don't know. It's only been out a few days and was only put out on Twitter by my account today when I could get back in. So yeah, so with Joe Kent, he's a intelligence officer and top CIA guy. I think a lot of stuff is going on right now, and I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. But I think people should be careful in trusting former, quote unquote, spooks who come out of nowhere and are saying what you want to hear right away, because a lot of times what happens is that these figures will do that to build up trust with the public, and then they'll misdirect you somewhere else if you're not careful. So I would advise vigilance and critical thinking, which is often in short supply but should not be, about that figure in particular.
During the Reagan era, the U.S. government had a plan. If there were widespread nonviolent protests against a foreign military intervention, they could suspend the Constitution entirely under continuity of government protocols. Whitney Webb says that infrastructure has been expanded every single administration since then. Palantir, the company whose founder made J.D. Vance, builds the surveillance profiles that would be used to target people under it. We are right now in week 4 of a war with Iran that most Americans oppose. Webb is not speculating. She is reading you the blueprint.
Let me give you an example of why I'm really skeptical of him.
Okay.
So when Trump was, I encourage people to go back and look at the first iteration of the Trump administration to understand what's happening now. And since my career in journalism began during Trump's first term, I think I remember a good amount of it. About a year before the January 6th event, there was this DHS official, and this is the Trump administration, Elizabeth Newman, I think her name was. She was basically saying,
If you've been afraid to laugh, afraid to eat your favorite nuts, or if your speech has become impaired, though
there's going to be a domestic terror event. We can see it building, but we can't quite stop it. It's another 9/11. Oh no. If only we had more surveillance powers and whatever, we could maybe stop this other imminent 9/11, whatever. And so basically in that hearing, it was a hearing where she was testifying, top officials from DHS and other intelligence agencies were basically painting who is the up-and-coming domestic terrorist profile in the United States. What Americans are domestic terrorists. And so basically, I really wish I could remember the specific name of the hearing to direct people to that, because it is on C-SPAN still. But basically, the profile they gave were anti-Semitic Trump supporters or anti-Semitic right-leaning populists. So I worry when people from that exact nexus that existed in Trump 1 come out and are trying to get right-leaning populists in particular to do things that the Trump administration itself, even if no one else agrees with the definition, would define as anti-Semitic. Okay, so basically the first Trump administration defined the rising domestic terror threat because after 9/11 they've been building all this infrastructure for a war on domestic terror.
Right.
Every administration has advanced it, Democrat
Yes.
and Republican.
Yes.
So who are they saying the domestic terrorists are?
Them.
Anti-Semitic right-leaning populists. Well, so before this era, they had the domestic terror threat they were trying to put in front of you were obviously these groups of like feds, like Patriot
Yes.
Front
Patriot
and
Front.
the Proud Boys
Yes.
and all of that. Okay, so how if you can't fake the demographic, how do you engineer the demographic?
And so you think
Does
that's
that make sense? So basically, if you have Trump officials that are part of this apparatus claiming right-leaning anti-Semites are domestic terrorists that need to be targeted by this infrastructure and the surveillance infrastructure and pre-crime and all of that that's been a part of this buildup of the war on domestic terror. And then you have people coming out and being like, we're going to blame, saying what people want to hear, because obviously Israel absolutely is intimately involved with getting us involved in the Iran war. But the other side of it is you signal boost that with people like Joe Kent, potentially, and then you have people sort of muddy the waters between Israel and all Jewish people, which is not fair. And then you can have the Trump administration swoop in and, look at Alexis Wilkins. Foreign government operators are driving these narratives. It's like reverse Russiagate. And, well, I mean, I probably should have thought this theory a little bit more before explaining it on your show. But basically, I worry that someone like Joe Kent is coming out of nowhere to try and sort of engineer this problem that the U.S. government has had is we can't make domestic terrorists appear that fit our profile. So now we want people to create a class of right-leaning populists who basically fit our definition if we just define anti-Semites as people who are critical of Israel. And then we can target these people with our domestic terror infrastructure. So I worry that could be happening. And I know people are probably going to clip this out of context and try and make me sound insane because I haven't written an article on it. It's just why I don't trust the guy and you asked. So I think it could go multiple ways also. We'll see. I mean, if they can't run J.D. Vance because he's so tarred by the Iran war, however that plays out, and the Peter Thiel ties and whatever, they need someone else. And what better person to have someone who was a neocon up until now and then come out as, not that and then get in office and revert to that. I mean, he was funded by Peter Thiel too when he unsuccessfully ran for office, Joe Kent. No, I honestly don't know. I mean, you're asking me something that I've only sort of thought about, and I'm just trying to explain, why I'm skeptical, and I haven't explained it in interviews or in a piece. I tend, it's easier to write a piece and then
talk about it. Okay, I got you.
Talk about it. I just find it potentially worrisome, and like I said, I think people should critically think and be vigilant and watch what the guy does and see what happens. Maybe it's genuine, but I think the government and the quote-unquote deep state is smarter than they give us credit for, and they don't like so many people being against neoconservative foreign policy and against, different things that are happening in the country. So how do we quell and manipulate that dissent into something that is better for us? Those kind of psyops are happening all the time. So why wouldn't they be happening now with very high profile national security figures that resign and then are, all over the news? I think it's important to do that, and I think it's important to remember that just like the war on terror was oppression of the U.S. national security state abroad, they have been planning for 25 years to direct that same infrastructure back home on the war on domestic terror. Like the war on terror was oppression of the U.S. national security state abroad, they have been planning for 25 years to direct that same infrastructure back home on the war on domestic terror, and they are just waiting for a major problem of anti-Semitic, allegedly anti-Semitic gun-owning Republicans, by their own admission. So, I worry that some of the so-called MAGA civil war, as some people are calling it, is being engineered to, lead
Been
people
playing for
into,
20 plus years.
a very inconvenient for them categorization by, Palantir and these other, surveillance engines used by the national security state that label people as subversive or potentially terrorist or whatever. And a lot of that, those profiles are built on the media you consume and what you say and write online.
Tulsi sold you "No War with Iran" t-shirts.
What
J.D.
we
Vance
say.
called Trump America's Hitler. Pete Hegseth was on...
What we say online.
Inconvenient for them categorization by, Palantir and these other, surveillance engines used by the national security state that label people as subversive or potentially terrorist or whatever. And a lot of that, those profiles are built on the media you consume and what you say and write online.
Tulsi sold you "No War with Iran" t-shirts. J.D. Vance called Trump America's Hitler. Pete Hegseth was on Fox and Friends. Whitney Webb told you exactly why they were chosen and exactly what they would do when the moment came. The anti-war voices are gone. The surveillance infrastructure is built. The protests are happening right now. Pay attention to what comes next. And don't let anyone tell you there's nothing to see here.
Shit. Okay, hold on. Can I get y'all to support the platform? My Cash App is $AUNTEAFEE.
I'm the edema building up in your lower legs, and most compression socks can't even touch me. Let me show you what's actually happening beneath your skin right now. When your circulation slows down, fluids...
Hold on. Yeah, this is gonna be my last one until what time is it? Yeah. Let me see.
Full definition of anti-Semitism. So what is anti-Semitism? And if you've been called it, or if someone's ever implied it, you have a problem with the Jews. You're kind of obsessed with the Jews. See,
Hold on.
Galibaf went on state television this morning and said something I want you to pay attention to. He said the ceasefire has seen progress. He said both sides are talking. And then he said, and this is the part that tells you everything about where this war actually is, that many gaps and some fundamental points remain, and that the fundamental driver of those gaps is Iran's distrust of the United States. Not the uranium numbers, not the Hormuz question, distrust. That word from Iran's parliament speaker. On the morning of the day the ceasefire has 3 days left, tells you that the negotiations are not stuck on the details of a deal. They are stuck on something deeper. Iran does not believe America will honor whatever it signs. Now hold that word, distrust. And let me tell you what was sitting on the table that could have resolved it, that both Iran and America had reason to accept, and that America rejected. Russia offered to take Iran's enriched uranium, all 440 kilograms of it, off Iranian soil into Russian territory, under IAEA inspection. Putin made the offer personally. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed it publicly, speaking to India Today. His exact words, "This would be a good decision, but unfortunately, the American side rejected this proposal." Iran had been okay with the arrangement. Russia had done exactly this before, in 2015, when it physically removed enriched uranium from Iran as part of the JCPOA. The technical infrastructure exists, the legal framework exists, the history exists. America said no, not later, not after consideration. The proposal had been made since June 2025. America had plenty of time. America said no. And today, while Galabaf talks about distrust and fundamental gaps and the ceasefire expiring Wednesday, Russia's uranium offer is still sitting on the table. Peskov confirmed that too, unanswered, waiting while gunboats fire on Indian tankers in the Strait, and mediators from Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt work through the night trying to find language that both sides can live with. I said Russia would offer Iran a solution America could not match. Not a military solution, not a sanctions solution, a structural solution, one that only Russia could make credibly because of its specific history with Iran's nuclear program and its unique position between Washington and Tehran. I said America would not be able to accept it. It didn't. And I want to spend the next 20 minutes explaining exactly what that rejection means. Not for the ceasefire deadline 3 days from now, but structurally. Because the rejection of Russia's offer is the proof of something I have been arguing since the first bomb dropped. America and Russia are fighting two completely different wars inside this conflict. And the side that understands what war it is actually in is the side that is winning. Let me start with what Russia offered, because I think the coverage has been too vague about the specific mechanics, and the mechanics matter enormously. Iran currently holds approximately 440 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. To build a nuclear weapon, you need 90%. The gap between 60 and 90 sounds large. It is not. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy who led 21 hours of negotiations in Islamabad, confirmed publicly that Iran could reach weapons grade in approximately 1 week if it chose to. That 440 kilograms is therefore the operational heart of this entire war. Every American ultimatum, every strike, every blockade, every ceasefire demand orbits around one question. Where does that material go? America's answer has been consistent. Nowhere in Iran. Hand it over, completely, to the IAEA or to America directly, or, as Trump put it in a press conference, dig it up and remove it. And paired with that demand, no more enrichment, ever. The American negotiators in Islamabad proposed a 20-year freeze on enrichment. Iran countered with 5 years. America rejected 5 years. And then Trump publicly said he did not even like his own team's 20-year proposal, that the correct answer was Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. No qualifier, no years, permanent, total elimination. A U.S. official confirmed to Time after Islamabad collapsed that America's red lines were end all uranium enrichment, dismantle all major enrichment facilities, remove the entire stockpile from the country, end funding for allied armed groups, and open Hormuz toll-free. 5 demands, every one of which Iran's leadership has publicly, repeatedly, and in some cases constitutionally stated it cannot accept. Kamran Bokhari, senior resident fellow at the Middle East Policy Council, told Time directly after the talks failed. America's nuclear demands left no face-saving for the Iranian side. The talks were unable to land on a formula both sides could accept. That is a diplomatic analyst's way of saying the gap was not about the details.
Right? Yes?
The gap was structural. America wanted something Iran cannot give. And Iran cannot give it not because of stubbornness, but because of domestic political physics. A government whose supreme leader was killed on the first day of the war, whose civilian population has absorbed 50 days of strikes, cannot sign a document that reads like unconditional surrender and remain in power the following morning. Now, Russia looked at that gap, America's unyielding demands, and Iran's domestic impossibility, and made a specific operational offer designed to fit exactly in the space between them. Russia offered 2 variants. First, it would reprocess Iran's 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium into fuel for nuclear power plants, downblending the material to civilian grade, removing its weapons potential while preserving its energy value for Iran. Second, it would take a specified quantity for storage in Russian territory under full IAEA inspection and international monitoring. Russia is not guessing about its ability to do this. Russia did exactly this in 2015. When the JCPOA nuclear deal was signed, Russia physically removed large amounts of enriched uranium from Iran, transported it, processed it, and converted it to reactor fuel.
Absolutely.
The infrastructure exists.
He
The
sold
legal
his soul to the
framework
devil a long time
exists.
ago.
The IAEA
He
relationship
said that
exists.
there's nothing he can
Russia
do to make it
has
into
done this
heaven.
before, and it works. The strategic genius of the offer, and I want you to sit with this, is that it gives Iran exactly the domestic political framing it needs. The uranium does not go to America. It does not get destroyed. It does not represent Iranian capitulation to American demands. It goes to a partner country under conditions Iran nominally agreed to, preserving the theoretical argument that Iran's sovereign nuclear program was not eliminated but temporarily and voluntarily shared with an ally. For Iran's leadership, that framing is the difference between a deal they can sell and a deal that triggers a domestic uprising against whoever signed it. America rejected this, not because the technical proposal was unsound, because of what accepting it would mean for America's relationship with Russia. Let me explain the American rejection, and I want to be precise because I think the dismissive coverage, America doesn't want Russia involved, understates how deep the problem actually goes. Accepting Russia's proposal would mean 5 things simultaneously. First, Russia becomes the physical custodian of Iran's most dangerous nuclear material, the material America launched a war over. Second, every future American assurance that Iran cannot build a bomb requires Russia's cooperation, which means Russia has leverage over American security guarantees in the most contested region on Earth. Third, Putin, the same leader America is simultaneously demanding end the Ukraine war, becomes indispensable to the resolution of America's biggest current military confrontation. Fourth, accepting the offer while demanding Russia change its behavior in Ukraine creates a contradiction. You cannot simultaneously reward Russia with a central strategic role in Middle East nuclear architecture and expect Russia to be pressured out of Ukraine. Fifth, and most politically painful for any American president, it hands Russia a public diplomatic victory, a moment on the world stage where Moscow solved something Washington could not. These are not small considerations. They are genuine strategic dilemmas. And I want to give them their full weight because I do not want this analysis to be unfair to the American position. But here is what the rejection cannot resolve. The rejection does not make the uranium go away. The rejection does not change Iran's position on enrichment. The rejection does not produce a deal Iran can sign. The rejection simply removes the one arrangement that bridged the gap and leaves the gap in place. And with the ceasefire expiring Wednesday and no second round of talks confirmed, the gap is not closing. Golubov said it directly on state television this morning. Many gaps and some fundamental points remain. Deputy Foreign Minister Khatibzadeh said at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum that no enriched material is going to the United States, ever. Not now, not next month, not under any timeline America has so far proposed. The Iranian position on American custody of its uranium is not a negotiating posture. It is a wall, and it is a wall with a specific foundation. Iran's enrichment right is not just a political stance. It is written into the logic of the Islamic Republic's post-revolutionary identity. Every supreme leader since Khomeini has treated the nuclear program as proof of Iranian sovereignty, proof that sanctions, pressure, assassination, and war could not force Iran to surrender what it had built with its own engineers and its own scientists. Asking Iran to permanently eliminate enrichment and hand the material to America specifically is not just a security demand. It is a demand that Iran publicly admit that 50 years of sacrifice and resistance produced nothing that America could not take away. No government in Tehran, reformist, conservative, or hardline, can sign that document and survive the morning after. Russia's offer was the only proposal on the table that both sides could theoretically accept. America said no, and now everyone is watching a ceasefire deadline approach with no alternative solution in sight. Now let me use a framework I want to name precisely, because I think it explains the deeper pattern of what Russia has been doing in this war. I call it the sovereign offer. It is different from the rejected bridge, which I have described before. The sovereign offer is a proposal made by a country that has something uniquely valuable, infrastructure, history, positioning, that no other party can replicate. Russia's uranium custodianship is a sovereign offer because only Russia can make it credibly. Only Russia has removed Iranian uranium before. Only Russia has the IAEA infrastructure and the political relationship with Iran to make the mechanics work. No other country, not China, not Pakistan, not Qatar, can make this offer in a way both sides would trust. Russia's offer was not interchangeable with anyone else's offer. It was uniquely Russia's. And here is what makes the sovereign offer powerful as a strategic instrument. When you make an offer that only you can make and the other side rejects it, you win whether or not they accept. If America had accepted, Russia becomes the central player in Middle East nuclear architecture. Indispensable, credible, powerful. If America rejects, as it did, Russia still wins, because the rejection makes America look maximalist. The stalemate continues. Russia's oil revenue keeps flowing, and Russia's offer sits on the table as the permanently available solution that one side refused. Peskov confirmed the offer still stands. Putin is ready to return to it. Russia is not withdrawing the proposal. It is simply leaving it there, visible, unanswered, as proof that when the war's most critical diplomatic moment arrived, Russia had something America needed, and America said no. Let me now explain what Russia has been collecting while America said no. Before this war started, Russia's economy was genuinely in crisis. February oil export revenues had collapsed to $9.7 billion, the lowest since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. The Kremlin was preparing 10% cuts to all non-security spending. Bankruptcies in Russia had risen 31% in 2025 to 568,000. Real GDP contracted in the opening months of 2026. The IMF's full-year forecast was 0.8% growth. Russia's central bank was introducing new credit risk regulations, a signal it would not send if the financial outlook were stable. Putin's internal advisors were reportedly warning of a potential budget crisis by summer. Chatham House put it simply in its April assessment. Just as economic pressure appeared to be working, just as the tools Western governments had spent years building to constrain Russia were beginning to bite, the war arrived and reversed the trajectory completely. Then February 28th happened. The Hormuz closure sent Brent crude toward $120 a barrel. Russian Urals crude, which had been trading at a significant discount to Brent, sitting at $44.59 per barrel in February, surged to $77 in March and reached $106 by early April, a 138% increase in 8 weeks. Russia's oil revenue doubled in a single month, from $9.7 billion in February to $19 billion in March. The Kremlin's planned spending cuts were canceled. The sovereign wealth fund that Russia had been draining to fund the Ukraine campaign stabilized. The KSE Institute, the Kyiv School of Economics, calculated that Russia could earn between $45 billion and $151 billion in additional revenues across 2026, depending on the conflict's duration. Even the most conservative estimate, A 6-week war with fast recovery would produce $84 billion in additional Russian export earnings compared to a no-war baseline. Russia's entire 2025 fiscal deficit was $97 billion. A 3-month war covers that entirely. And beyond crude oil, Russia was collecting in ways the press has barely covered. Russia is the world's second largest fertilizer exporter. The Strait of Hormuz is a conduit for approximately 30 to 35% of global urea trade and 20 to 30% of global ammonia exports, both coming out of the Persian Gulf. With those supplies disrupted, Russian fertilizer producers began capturing new long-term customers in Nigeria, Ghana, and across South Asia. These are not one-off orders. They are structural shifts in agricultural supply chains that will persist beyond any ceasefire. CNN's reporting noted that once these commercial relationships establish themselves, they solidify into dependencies that outlast the conflict entirely. Russia was not just collecting a short-term windfall. It was building durable market share while America was building a naval blockade. And then America made Russia's position materially better. The Trump administration, facing domestic gasoline price pressure and political cost from rising oil, temporarily lifted sanctions on Russian crude. The same sanctions the G7 had spent 3 years constructing to cut Russia's revenue and pressure it toward Ukraine concessions. Germany's chancellor called the decision wrong. 6 of 7 G7 leaders called it wrong. It happened anyway. The waiver expired and was renewed. America handed Russia a financial lifeline at the precise moment it was demanding Russia change its behavior in Ukraine. The military dimension is equally stark. Russian satellites conducted at least 24 systematic surveys of American and allied military positions across 11 Middle Eastern countries. Ukrainian intelligence, which has been tracking Russian satellite positioning throughout the conflict, confirmed that Iranian missile and drone strikes followed those surveys with remarkable precision, targeting facilities that appeared in the imagery within days of the surveys. The CIA director confirmed publicly that Russia and China were sharing intelligence with Iran. Trump asked directly at the White House whether Russia's satellites were guiding strikes that were killing American soldiers, said he did not know one way or the other, and moved on to the next question. Into all of this, the financial windfall, the satellite targeting, the canceled budget cuts, the renewed oil waiver, the fertilizer contracts, the intelligence sharing, Russia placed its uranium offer publicly through its most senior spokesman, echoed by its foreign minister from Beijing, a credible, technically feasible, historically grounded, and uniquely Russian solution to the central sticking point of the entire war, that America rejected. Let me steel man the American rejection one more time, because I want you to pressure test everything I have said. The strongest version of the American argument goes like this. Russia's offer solves only half the problem. Even if Iran's 440 kilograms move to Russia under IAEA monitoring, Iran retains its centrifuges, retains its enrichment knowledge, retains the ability to reconstitute its stockpile within months if it chooses. A deal built on Russia holding the uranium is not a deal that permanently prevents an Iranian bomb. It is a deal that temporarily relocates the material while leaving the infrastructure intact. And a deal built on trusting Russia, a country simultaneously providing satellite targeting data to help Iran strike American troops, is not a security guarantee. It is a liability dressed up as a solution. This argument has real merit. The centrifuge question is genuine. Iran's enrichment capacity, if left intact, means the 440 kilograms can be rebuilt. And trusting Russia to be a responsible custodian of material that constrains Iran's nuclear options requires believing that Russia's interests in Iran's nuclear restraint align with America's, which they do not necessarily. Russia benefits from an Iran that is strong enough to keep Hormuz in play, but not so strong that it destabilizes Russia's own neighborhood. That is not the same as America's interest in Iran having no nuclear capability at all. So the strongest version of the American rejection is Russia's offer doesn't solve the problem America actually has. It solves the problem Russia wants America to think it has. That is a serious argument, and I hold it in full. But here is what the steel man still cannot answer. If Russia's offer is insufficient, what is the sufficient alternative? America's alternative: zero enrichment, dismantle all facilities, hand uranium to America, 20-year freeze Trump, then called too short, has produced 51 days of war, 21 hours of collapsed talks, a naval blockade, gunboats firing on Indian tankers, a ceasefire expiring Wednesday with no deal confirmed, and Galibaf on state television this morning saying many gaps and some fundamental points remain. The alternative to Russia's insufficient offer is not a better deal. It is the current situation. And the current situation, by every measurable indicator, is not producing the outcome America says it wants. Let me bring all of this together and tell you where I think the next 72 hours go. 3 scenarios remain before Wednesday. The most likely is a narrow framework, not a full agreement, but written language that lets both sides pause without declaring failure. Iran gets something on frozen assets. America gets something on enrichment timelines. The uranium question is managed rather than solved. A monitored downblending process, an agreed timetable, language both sides can read as a win domestically. Russia's offer becomes irrelevant because the question is parked rather than answered. Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey's mediators are working toward exactly this. The ceasefire extends. The war does not resume Wednesday. The uranium question returns in phase 2 negotiations with higher stakes and lower trust. The second scenario is collapse. The ceasefire expires. Bombing resumes. Iran's missile cities, rebuilt during the ceasefire with Chinese tunnel boring machines, go operational again. The IRGC, which said today it is in full readiness, acts. Russia's satellite surveys of American positions continue. Russia's oil revenue stays elevated for another round. And Russia's uranium offer sits on the table, visible to everyone, as the solution America already rejected while the war restarts. The third scenario, the least likely, the most structurally interesting, is that America reverses course on Russia's offer, not as a concession, but as a Trump deal move. Uses Russia's uranium custodianship as leverage to extract a Russia commitment on Ukraine in exchange for American acceptance of the Russian framework in Iran, a multi-party trade that no one in the current political environment appears positioned to execute, but structurally possible. And the kind of move that, if it happened, would be the most significant diplomatic development since the ceasefire itself. I think the first scenario is most probable. The third scenario is what the situation structurally demands. And the second scenario is what happens if both fail. Watch not what Galibaf posts on Telegram or what Trump says on Air Force One. Watch whether Steve Witkoff or Marco Rubio says anything at all about Russia's proposal publicly. Because the first moment America acknowledges the offer rather than ignoring it tells you more about where this war is going than any ship movement in the Strait. Push back on this if you see it differently. Read what Peskov said to India today, the exact words. Read what the Middle East Policy Council's Bokhari told Time about face-saving in the Islamabad talks. Read the KSE Institute numbers on Russia's oil revenue trajectory. And then ask yourself the question the press briefings are not asking. If Russia predicted its offer would be rejected, made it anyway, confirmed the rejection publicly, and left the offer standing, what does that tell you about who is running the most sophisticated strategy in this war? I said Russia would offer Iran a solution America could not. It did. America rejected it, and Russia did not need America to accept. It just needed the record to show that it offered.
There is a specific kind of
Okay, I'm finna shut it down for now. Yeah. Hold on.
Less about what's going on. Will somebody please tell Donald Trump that the criminal probe against Fed Reserve Chair Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve related to some construction cost overruns about a renovation of 200-year-old buildings is over? Nobody apparently told Bob the Builder, Donald Trump, and he's still going on Fox and with Maria Bartiromo trying to bash Jay Powell, whose term is up in 4 weeks as the chair. He should worry less about what's going on down at the construction site now that a federal judge killed the criminal probe because there's no evidence. And he should worry more about how he gets Tom Tillis, the Republican from North Carolina who's leaving office in 2028, but has said he's going to block the vote to confirm Donald Trump's pick to head the Federal Reserve, Kevin Warsh, if there's still a federal probe hanging over Jay Powell. And going on Maria Bartiromo and saying there's a criminal probe over Jay Powell is not helping you get the Tillis vote. This is, again, another example of his descent into madness, the dark triad that has been observed by professionals.
This is probably the only job in the world.
That's funny.
Iran is absolutely repudiating Donald Trump's claims that Iran entered into a deal to open the Strait of Hormuz and to basically fully surrender Iran. Said we haven't agreed to anything that Donald Trump is saying. We're sticking with our 10-point negotiating framework, and Donald Trump's just out there lying and manipulating the markets in Iran. Said we're going to now fully shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Previously, as a gesture of good faith, we were allowing some ships to go through a coordinated route that we agreed to, and now we're saying no ships can go through the Strait of Hormuz because the United States continues its naval blockade of the Persian Gulf, and Donald Trump continues to lie about our negotiating positions. He continues to threaten us during the ceasefire period while negotiations are taking place. The Strait of Hormuz is closed down. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps announced to all tank.
Do you have $100? Because I'm looking for 2,000 believers who are willing to trade 100.
So we're starting in South Carolina because they get the big primary on Saturday.
We head there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
And Donald Trump was there last night with our own Laura Ingraham, and she was pressing him on what he's going to do in the new administration, but she wanted his reaction on the latest, on the massive price tag he's going to have to pay. This is what the former president had to say. Watch.
It is
a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. The guy's a nut job. I've known this for a long time, and I've said it openly. No jury, no anything. Letitia James is horrible attorney general in New York, campaigned on I will get Trump, I will get Trump. We went through a trial. It turned out we're totally innocent on everything. And he fined me $355 million plus interest and other things. If I didn't run, I wouldn't have any of these lawsuits. You know that. None of them. They would have gone on to the next. And look, Nikki has no chance. But if she ever did, they would go after her the same way. These are vicious people. These are vicious, sick people. They're sick. I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success.
Donald Trump compared his legal situation to Alexei Navalny. Navalny was a Russian opposition leader who was imprisoned by Vladimir Putin, subjected to show trials with predetermined verdicts, denied due process, and died in an Arctic prison in February 2024 under circumstances that most Western governments attributed to deliberate state killing. Trump made this comparison while speaking to Laura Ingraham on Fox News, describing his civil fraud judgment as a form of Navalny, a form of communism or fascism. That comparison is worth examining carefully because it contains a claim about the American legal system case directly contradict, and because the broader argument Trump made in the same interview that none of this would be happening if he had not run for president is a claim that deserves an honest accounting rather than dismissal. Here is the full breakdown of what Trump said, what is accurate in it, what is not, why the Navalny comparison fails on its own terms, what the record actually shows about Letitia James and her 2018 campaign, what the trial produced in terms of documentary evidence, why the no jury claim is technically accurate and substantively misleading, and why the argument that celebrities used to love Trump and now the legal system is after him reveals something real about how political persecution claims function, even when the underlying case involves documented fraud.
You know, it is interesting that he makes the case that no matter if it's me or Nikki Haley, that they would be going after a Republican. And you just got to look at all these images of all these politicians as well as these celebrities that have photos with Donald Trump, the Trump brand. Everybody wanted to be in Trump Tower, wanted to be on the Celebrity Apprentice, wanted him at their wedding. They attended his wedding. But the moment he decided to get involved in politics is when you saw the criminal justice system change a little bit.
But before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe to Daily News Minutes. Leave a like and comment below what you think about this story. Let me explain the Navalny comparison specifically because it is the most dramatic claim Trump made in the clip, and because understanding why it fails requires understanding what actually happened to Navalny, not as a rhetorical point, but as a factual matter. Alexei Navalny spent years building the Anti-Corruption Foundation, documenting through meticulous investigative work the financial crimes of Russian government officials and their families. He was poisoned with Novichok, a military-grade nerve agent, in August 2020 while traveling domestically in Russia. He lost consciousness on a flight, was hospitalized in Omsk, and was eventually transferred to Berlin for treatment. Novichok is a chemical weapon developed by the Soviet military. Its use on a civilian required authorization at the highest levels of the Russian security state. Navalny recovered, returned to Russia in January 2021, knowing he would be arrested, was immediately detained at the airport, and spent the remainder of his life in Russian penal colonies. He was held first at IK2, a maximum security facility known for its harsh conditions, and later transferred to IK6, an Arctic penal colony in the Yamalo-Nenets region, 200 miles from Moscow. He died there in February 2024. His lawyers were not permitted to see his body for days. The Russian government provided multiple contradictory explanations. Western governments, including the United States, attributed his death to the Putin regime. Navalny had no independent jury. He had no independent judiciary. The judges in his trials were employees of a state apparatus that had already decided his outcome before proceedings began. His convictions were on charges, embezzlement, parole violations, extremism, that international legal observers, the European Court of Human Rights, and multiple Western governments unanimously described as fabricated specifically to neutralize him as a political threat. The European Court of Human Rights found that his initial detention was arbitrary and politically motivated. That court's rulings carry no weight in Russia, which withdrew from the Council of Europe in 2022. Trump's civil fraud case proceeded in the New York Supreme Court, a court that operates under the United States Constitution. The proceeding lasted months. The defense team filed hundreds of motions. Trump's lawyers cross-examined the state's witnesses, retained their own expert appraisers, challenged the methodology of every valuation, and argued extensively that the financial statements at issue reflected legitimate professional judgment rather than fraud. The trial produced thousands of pages of transcript and documentary evidence. When Engoron ruled against Trump, Trump's team appealed. The appellate division reviewed the case, agreed with Trump's lawyers that the penalty was constitutionally excessive under the Eighth Amendment, and threw out the $515 million fine. The fraud finding was upheld. The penalty was voided. That is not what happens in a Navalny proceeding. In a Navalny proceeding, you do not win on appeal. There are no appeals. There is no Eighth Amendment. There is no independent bench of judges evaluating whether the government went too far. There is a state apparatus that decides your guilt before your trial begins, and a penal system designed to break you before it kills you.
Wow.
The comparison does not survive contact with what Navalny's case actually was. It is a rhetorical move designed to invoke a vivid image of political martyrdom in an audience that may not know the specific details of either case. It works as a
Thank you, Bob. Excuse me. Rubio, yeah, to me.
Does Putin say this? Does Putin... That's why this issue set is difficult. I'm not claiming anything other than the fact that we understand it's difficult. We understand that you're not going to have a deal unless both sides have to give and both sides have to get. Both sides will have to make concessions.
Y'all please hit the like button.
We may not have a deal. We may not have a deal. It's unfortunate.
The U.S. should walk away from that if it
Well,
is not a prime region interest because it's not in our continent.
That's not my decision to make. Ultimately, the president will make a determination if and when he feels like further U.S. engagement is no longer productive or serves the national interest. That's a decision the president has to make. I can't speculate about that. All right, yes.
Mr. Secretary, a question for you on Venezuela and then quickly on Ukraine. You mentioned Maduro was not the only one indicted by the United States in the Southern District. Does that mean it is U.S. policy that not just Maduro, but his top regime lieutenants, cabinet members, that they all must exit?
Yeah, no, I point to the indictment simply as when people say, well, how do we are alleging that he is, and I guess, you can describe it any way you want. I just want to make clear, this is not something we came up with.
Right.
We're basing it on a
Trump's whole cabinet needs to be indicted and brought up on charges as well.
And so, but what it proves is, and the reason why I raise the indictments is because the indictments are the point of the $50 million reward. And I believe the $25 or $10 million reward for Cabello and for others. My point is that this allegation, this claim that the Maduro regime is a narco-terrorist organization is not on the basis of political talk or speculation. It is on the basis of evidence provided to a grand jury in the Southern District of New York that returned an indictment. And that's why I point to those indictments.
Can I ask you on Ukraine quickly, because Russia has deployed its latest nuclear-capable missile system to Belarus, according to that country's leadership. We've heard from a number of European leaders, the Chancellor of Germany himself, that they think this era of Pax Americana is gone, that they are needing to prepare to be on a war footing because of the threat from Putin. Do you believe, does this administration...
Are you worried that using your home address for business puts your privacy at risk? At iPostal One, we can...
And do you stand by our European allies against any kind
of attack? Look, we have heard the same concerns from our allies in NATO. It's why we are in NATO. It's why we meet with them. It's why we talk to them all the time. I've spoken to Mark Rutte this year probably 40 times, and he's spoken to multiple people in our administration as well, multiple times. He's been here multiple times. He speaks to the president directly. It's why the United States basically is over 50% of NATO, both in troop commitments and in financial commitments as well. It's why we remain in NATO. It's why the president had a very positive visit in NATO. In the end, that's why we're in this alliance. And that's why Article 5 in the NATO alliance is important, and the president has reiterated that. We think it's a very strong deterrent against any of these fears or concerns that any of our allies in the region may have, and the President's been clear that we are committed to NATO, we're committed to the alliance, and our commitment isn't just rhetorical. Our commitment is in action, in the troops that have been deployed, in the monies that have been spent, in the capabilities that are located, in the cooperation and that work that we do every single day with our NATO allies. The only thing we're asking for, which is not unfair, is for our partners in the alliance to improve their own capabilities. Because the more capable our allies in NATO are, the more capable NATO is.
But
we're going to keep doing our part, we just want them to do more. And they've committed to do more.
But these allies are saying that they are concerned now.
Sure, and that's why we have NATO.
So nothing has changed past America with the Chancellor?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why he's saying that. You'll have to ask him why he's saying that. The truth of the matter is that
you have to ask him
NATO
why he's saying
is
that.
the key defense alliance and agreement that has provided stability on the European continent. We believe it is stronger today than it's ever been because our allies have committed to increase their own defense spending. The more capable our allies are.
Now he's talking about we don't know why he's saying that.
We've been spending billions and billions and billions. It's the single biggest part of the largest government budget in the world is defense spending in the United States. So we've already done our part, and our part isn't just rhetorical, it's real. We have troops stationed there, we have capabilities there, we have weapons we've provided our partners in the region as well. We believe that if you want a strong NATO, you want your allies in NATO to be stronger. The more capable our allies in NATO are, the stronger NATO is collectively. And that's why we're very pleased to see them make that commitment of 5%, with the exception of Spain. And that's why the President left our NATO gathering earlier this year so enthusiastic about the future of NATO and about our role in it. And in fact, that's why the President's been working with NATO countries on the Pearl program, which is what's providing weaponry to the Ukrainians today.
Secretario, gracias por su tiempo y por atendernos. Sé que esta es como la 10ª pregunta de Venezuela, pero quiero quedar claro con varias cosas. Primero, usted puede hacer una referencia al comentario que hizo el presidente Trump apolítico cuando dijo los días de Maduro están contados. Eso se refiere a días, semanas, meses. Esperamos un 2026 sin Nicolás Maduro. Y me gustaría también que se refiriera a la orden de escoltar esos buques petroleros que acaba de dar Maduro a su armada, esos buques sancionados que ustedes están incautando. Algunos de ellos ya fueron escoltados, no estaban en la lista de sancionados, pero ¿qué pasaría si eso fuera con un buque sancionado? Y por último, Maduro le ha pedido al ejército colombiano que se una como un solo ejército en medio de su desespero por responder a este cerco.
Son 3 preguntas. En el tercero, nosotros no vemos eso como algo serio en términos de involucrar las Fuerzas Armadas de Colombia. En términos de los buques, como bien han dicho, creo que salieron 4 buques ayer, que ninguno de los 4 eran sancionados. Y no existe nada que vaya a impedir nuestra habilidad de poder enforzar las leyes de Estados Unidos en términos de los buques que son sancionados. Y en la primera pregunta yo no voy a especular sobre, tendrá que preguntarle a la Casa Blanca, el comentario del presidente simplemente para decirle que sin duda pensamos que el régimen de Maduro es ilegítimo y que su cooperación con estos grupos terroristas en nuestra región, incluso sus propias actividades terroristas, son una amenaza a la seguridad nacional de Estados Unidos. The 3 points that he asked about, one had to do with the Maduro calling on the Colombian armed forces to join ranks with him, and we're not really focused on that rhetoric. We're also not concerned that there were 4 boats yesterday that were escorted by so-called naval vessels. Those were not sanctioned boats to begin with, but there's nothing that's going to impede our ability to enforce U.S. law when it comes to sanctions. We're not concerned about that. Sanctioned boats, we have the capabilities necessary to enforce our laws. We'll have a judicial order, we'll execute on those orders, and there's nothing that will impede us from being able to do that. And on the first point, the question was something about President Trump had said that Maduro's days are numbered. I didn't hear that quote. Was that a recent quote? ¿Esto fue reciente?